That is crazy stuff.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
Hello and welcome to round 2 of the Northwest Major Series here at Daytona International Speedway. Hi, I'm Samuel Ryman. With me in the booth is Kevin Brown and Joe Peak, and behind the scenes doing all the button pushing is Giancarlo Lenzi. Kevin, we were here at the road course about a month ago for the opening round of the season. This track retains the glamour and fast speeds of the road course, but there are many differences in between this oval track and the road course as well.
Yeah, there really are, Samuel, and the big difference is it's a heck of a lot shorter lap time for sure. It's only about 45 seconds as opposed to about a minute and a half, depending on the car. And I think the bigger story is it's not so much the track, but it's the traffic that you're dealing with, Samuel.
Yes, and Joe Peak, I'll bring in our other commentator right now. Last round we had 2 classes, whereas today we only have 1 class. However, the winners of both classes at the opening round scored the same amount of points, which means we have a very close points battle right now. Jimbo Fife and Stephen Ellis lead the points championship with 26 points. Ryan Otis and Ryan Thomas are tied on second for 20, and Richard Wedstead and Ryan Worley are tied on third for 18. So this race is really going to shake the standings up.
Absolutely. So guys are going to be a little bit antsy probably to try and get better positions, especially towards the end of the race. The key to this thing is definitely going to have to be patience for these guys to try and make something of this to give them a better standing to the championship.
Absolutely, and we'll try and keep you updated on how the point situation looks as the race goes on. And but another little key to this race is that only the top 15 cars at the finish line get points. One driver's already got a point. That will be our pole sitter, who currently looks like Brian Pedro, as qualifying is finishing off right now. So he will get a bonus point for sitting in the pole. But Joe, the way you've going to get a top 15 finish here is avoiding the big one.
Very much so. And, you know, that's the story of pretty much every Daytona 500. And it's going to be the case just as much here. So guys are really going to have to have their heads up. You know, some of these guys aren't necessarily oval racers. So this is going to be a bit of a crash course, so to speak, for them in super track racing here.
Yes, but however, to aid them a little bit, as Joe said, these guys aren't necessarily oval racers. This is a 12-week series, 6 races on road courses, 6 races on oval courses. Each of these drivers gets 2-3 repairs. So, you can be in 2 big ones and still have a chance at winning the race, but you're probably going to want to be careful at least the first half of a race, because of a stricter plate, slow these cars down, lead to pack racing, and that could lead to big wrecks. So Kevin, as we see the cars getting lined up on pit road, when do you think you're going to have to make your move in this race?
Well, you know, we saw last year with the Northwest Coast Indy 500 that there was a lot of cautions that happened early in the race, and I think that's my suspicion that we're going to see today, are a lot of cautions early. So I would like to see drivers just kind of play it a little conservative for the first part of the race, get into the groove, and then in the last stint of the race, I think that's when you really need to attack.
Alright, well, we're a long ways away from the last stint right now. We're right at the beginning pretty much, obviously. Now, what you're going to see here as a pace car rolls off of pit road is some of the cars, primarily those on the inside line, may choose to roll into their pit stalls and fall to the back of a grid. It's like starting from pit road in a way, but you still get to start with the pack, but you get to start at the back. And obviously, drivers will be doing that who are feeling a bit wheezy about the idea of starting mid-pack in a 43-car field on such a fast track with such a narrow racing surface. I'm going to be watching the start a little bit here, Joe, because these cars have a lot of power in them, and wheel spin is always an issue no matter where these guys go.
Yeah, the best drivers in here will have done plenty of laps and practice, not only trying to get hot laps in, but get their starts down. And that's just something, that's a skill that you have to learn in oval track racing. And these guys really should have put their time in, both with that and in pit entry too. There's more keys to this thing than just putting the pedal to the floor.
Yes, and I see one driver right now in the pit stall is S.J. Morgan. So it looks like he is going to start from the back. Also pulling into his pit stall, George Socha. No, he makes a fake. So, couple of cars going to the back. However, so two cars that are definitely not going to the back, Kevin, are Brian Pager and Sheila Ryber. They are on the front row.
They are indeed, and I gotta say that she...
Wait a minute. Brian Pager was given an end of longest line penalty. What's that all about? That means he will not be starting from pole. Skip Worthington in the Werther's Originals car is going to move up to pole position. I'm not quite sure what's going on there.
I don't think anybody does. Definitely Pager's gotten a penalty. We're not sure why yet. We'll have to try and figure that out.
Well, I mean, it's certainly not race over for him. These guys had two Gatorade dual races, if you will, on Thursday night. They didn't count for points or qualifying or anything, but Brian Pager won one of them and finished second in one of them. And I've got to be honest, he's my pick for the win today. But if he does it, he's going to have to work his way through the field. But 200 laps, 500 miles, you're probably going to get a break in pit strategy every now and then. So, Sheila Ryber is going to be starting on second place on the high line. Skip Worthington in the orange car will be starting from pole position. Behind them is Chris Beck and Tim Ryber, because S.J. Morgan, who was meant to start fourth, is starting from the back of the field as well. Pace car peels off. Field will be in control of Brian Pager in that number 14 Werther's Original car. Pace car is off. Away they go for 200 laps, 500 miles here at Daytona International Speedway.
And it looks like everybody was able to get off of there without any of the wheel spin that you mentioned. So everyone's just kind of slotting into line right now, trying to find their way, trying to get themselves a partner.
S.J. Morgan and Kayleen Hoy starting from pit road, actually, but if a caution comes out early, that deficit will be wiped out. Obviously, for the drivers who think it's going to go green to the end, the key is to not lose the lead draft. Skip Worthington got a great start, pulled down to the bottom lane right at the start of the race, and is in the lead over Sheila Ryber. Chris Becker in third place, and the two wide for fourth place with Tim Ryber on the high side, Mickey Edmondson on the low side, Kevin.
Yeah, and we see Richard Wedstead in the white 98 car kind of getting a little hung out to dry there. He's a pretty good road racer, but he didn't quite get the start that he wanted in this oval race, I think.
Skip Worthington goes up high. That's going to put Sheila Ryber into the lead. And I'm going to see if she led that lap or not. No, she didn't. Skip Worthington led lap one. Leading a lap in this series, though, does not pay points like it does in the real NASCAR series. And I'm looking at the completion of lap one. Brian Pager, who was meant to be our pole sitter, is in 33rd position, Joe.
Yeah, he's trying his hardest to try and work his way up there, and he's got a lot of work to do. But right now, he's just kind of slowly working his way around the back of the field. He's not really making any drastic moves. Like you mentioned, he's got a long way to go on this thing. All he has to do right now is really keep his head up and watch out for anything that goes on up in front of him, because if there's a wreck, he has got to be right on top of things. As the race progresses on, he's going to get opportunities to try and slot himself upwards, but right now, it's going to be a bit of a bee's nest up in front of him, so I imagine he probably just wants to play it safe and hold back.
I really don't understand Skip Worthington's strategy here. He had a good lead going, pulled up to the high line. By the end of lap 2, he had dropped from 1st to 5th, and he is dropping back even more. Look at some of the cars on the high line. They look very unsettled. Skip Worthington actually brushed the wall a lap ago. I know some drivers, personally myself, kind of like to ride down the low line here, especially early on in the race. It seems a few of these drivers, though, who may or may not be experienced in oval racing, just experimenting with that high line to see if it gives them an advantage or a disadvantage. Right now, it seems like a bit of a disadvantage, Kevin.
Yeah, you said it. Skip Worthington has really just kind of dropped off. The interesting thing, he's got Tim Reiber behind him, and I kind of wonder if Tim was trying to get up to his fellow Reiber Sheila and get a draft pack. Right, there's that four pack there. They're looking a little unstable. They're not really working well together, and the inside line is just kind of running a freight train on the inside of them on by, Samuel.
Yes, so Sheila Reiber will come across the line to lead at 4, has led 3 out of 4 laps of this race. Chris Beck running in second right behind her. Now, we are very well aware that the real Daytona 500 is going on right now, which may have hurt the field size for this race. We only had 36 starters as Chris Beck gets very loose on the low line there in second place. So 21 drivers will go home with nothing, 15 of them with points. So in 33rd place, Joe.
Yeah, it seems like exactly like I was saying before, that he was content to stay back, but now he started to drop off. In fact, he's lost touch, and this is where he needs to start maybe panicking just a little bit, because if you lose touch with that draft, then you are pretty much hung out to dry. All these guys are going to be able to run faster laps than he is. Even though he's out of trouble, he's a bit out of the loop, unfortunately.
Sorry for if anyone's having any difficulties with the stream right now. One person who's certainly having a bit of connection difficulties is Brian Barnes, who has retired from the race because he lost the internet connection. That's iRacing for you. Anyhow, looks like the cars are beginning to get up on the high side and make a comeback towards the top of the pack, although I see a purple car grazing the wall in turns 3 and 4 right there. Couldn't quite tell who that was. Skip Worthington now is back up into second place. Sheila Reiber has gotten out in front of the pack a little bit, and that could actually hurt her, Kevin, because now the drivers are going to have a run on her and maybe be able to pass her and push her back in the pack.
Could be. The guy I'm impressed with right now is Skip Worthington. It looks to me like he's got a little damage on his right front, and being the lead pack of that train on the outside is actually not affecting him too much. But we have a yellow, guys.
One car in the pits, Kevin Kernodle, affectionately known as Noodles. I'm trying to see, he didn't cause the caution. I don't know what did, so we're going to try and find out. Mike Willett, the league organizer, we're being told, was the reason for the caution, so I guess we'll try and get a replay on that and find out more information for you. But our first caution of the day is out here, and we are 7 laps in. Not a bad opening stint, Joe.
And yeah. Joe, I'm going to jump in. You can see it looks like the red car, the 33 of Vernon Margheim, got into the middle of Michael Willett in a 3 wide there and spun him around. That's kind of unfortunate. But these guys do have a couple of resets, so maybe they can get out, get a new car, and get focused again and put some more laps.
Yeah, and thankfully there wasn't a whole lot of guys involved in that. There was just a few of them that really got a little bit collected, and everybody else managed to avoid the carnage. So only a few guys have burned through their first of their 2 repairs, at least here early in the race.
Yeah, I think there's a 3rd car involved in this collision. I'm watching the replay right now. Yeah, it's the Adidas car of Jeff Graham, got a lot of damage. He had to take a tow the pit road, and although he may get a free repair, Kevin, he may lose a lap or 2, but the lucky dog rule is in effect. If you're new to oval racing, what that means is that if a caution comes out and you're the first car lap down, you may get a free wave around. So Jeff Graham may
difficulty to just keep it clean and maybe get that lap back.
Hopefully not. And we'll see here as the pace car is leading them down the backstretch. Sheila Reiber still in the lead. Skip Worthington second. Oh, front stretch actually. Here they come into the pits. Chris Beck leads them in, but he looks like he's all on his lonesome as far as the front cars go, Joe.
Yeah, either he's going to look very clever later on, or he's going to look very foolish very soon. We'll have to watch and see, but this is an interesting early call from him, especially being so high up in the pack. You would think that he would make this sort of move being farther down, and he misses his pit stall as he comes in as well. So that's going to hold him up, although it's a yellow flag, so it's really not too crucial.
And,
Yeah,
and we do know that Chris Beck is an experienced truck driver, runs a lot of oval racing, so he's probably pretty familiar with most pit strategies. I'm guessing this is just a gut call right now.
I'm checking up and down pit road to make sure there aren't any collisions. We almost had one as Brian Pager was pulling into his pit stall, and other cars were pulling out, so Brian Pager seems to be quite content right now to ride around at the back. And pitting early, I don't think it's a bad idea on a track like this, Joe, where you can make a green flag pit stop and not fall a lap down, so that, you know, if a caution did come out, you get to stay out while the other guys pit, you end up in the lead.
Yeah, so guys have really got to be thinking things through and kind of figuring out, you know, being able to mentally note what their fuel mileage is, how far they have to go, pay attention to the yellows. If they've got a crew chief in their ear, those guys are going to have a huge advantage in being able to focus on their racing and not have to worry about all that extraneous fuel mileage.
Richard Wedstead has been making some noise on the driver's chat. I want to go back to pit road and see if he got involved in a collision with anyone. I don't even think he made a pit stop. I'm really not sure what that's all about, but it seems like he's still running around okay right now in 6th position. And we apologise once again for any technical difficulties. We're going to see if the pace car lights stay on or off here. The lights are staying on. I'm going to try and get word from our directive. We're going to take a quick break to see if we can try and fix the technical issues. Alright, we're going to stay with you, but yeah, pace lights are still on, so let's take a quick look through the field. We've only really got to touch base on the lead cars right now. Sheila Ryber is in the lead, Skip Worthington second, Tim Ryber in third place. Not really sure if and how he's related to Sheila, but they seem to be running pretty close up out front, first and third. Mickey Edmondson in fourth place, and Cole Burke up in fifth in the number 53, Kevin.
Yep, in sixth place is Richard Wedstead, then Troy Anderson, Lauren Stanton having a fine run so far in eighth, Jimbo Pfeiffer in ninth, the guy that said oval racing is easy, and Gary Nichols in 10th, Joe.
Yeah, and behind them we've got Ryan Toma in 11th, then Brian Marsteller in 12th, David Brownie is sitting in 13th, and Matthew Sabowski is in 14th. Meanwhile, Randy Webster is holding up the 15th spot.
16th place is Joshua Gardiner. 17th is the young Kyle Clemens. 18th place is Chris Beck after his pit stop. And 19th is William Fletcher. And 20th is Ryan Otis. Joe?
21st is Rod Flagg. 22nd, George Socha. 23rd, Dan Stussy. 24th, Craig Capon. And 25th, Brian Pager, our pole sitter who was Black Flag, Joe.
Yes, and 21st is Ryan Otis, with 22nd being Rod Flagg. 23rd is George Socha, and 24th is Dan Stussy, with S.J. Morgan 25th.
Sorry for any difficulty going on in grid order right now. Scott Hutchinson seemed to have dropped out of his position. I think he may have taken a late pit stop, has thrown us all a curveball. 26 is Craig Capon. 27th is Kayleen Hoy, though I believe she came back down pit road. 28th is Brian Pager, still at the back. 29th is Mark Redeker. And 30th is Ray Fournier. And 31st is Kevin Kernodle after the collision. 32nd is Vernon Markheim. 33rd is Toby Butler. 34th is Mike Roulette, and he's a lap down. 35th is Jeff Graham, who is also a lap down, and 36th is Brian Barnes, who's 3 laps down. Gonna try and see if I can find if he's still on track. He is, so he may still be in this. And I'm taking a look at the pace car right now. The lights are off and the field are getting double fouled, Joe.
Yeah, so this is another part that guys have really had to have had some experience in to start to learn, is restarts, especially with it being double file. If any of these guys are road guys, they might be a little bit caught out in the chaos that comes with these restarts and all the cars being around them and whatnot. So you'll see some of the men separated from the boys, guys being clever and being able to get away just a little bit, or knowing just where the gaps are.
Yeah, there's a pace car working its way into turn 3 and 4 right now. Really quick, Kevin. I made my pick at the start of this race. I thought our pulse hitter, Brian Pager, was going to win the race. Did you have a favourite?
Well, I kind of touched on it briefly. Chris Beck is, like I said, pretty experienced in the trucks. I think he's pretty good at the big draft packs, so I would have to say he's probably my pick for the day.
Andrew.
You know, I'm honestly looking at Skip Worthington. He seems to be doing fairly well, even though he had what looked like an unusual call early on. But he's got himself back up into second. So obviously he seems to be able to keep a cool head in all this. So I wouldn't be surprised if he continued on up at the front for most of this race.
We've seen 1 wide, we've seen 2 wide. How long will it be until we see 3 wide? Maybe we'll find it out right now. Sheila River leads them away as they come to the green flag. Once again, Skip Worthington gets a bad restart. He's got the bottom lane open as he wants it, but he seems quite content to stay up high with Mickey Edmondson right on his rear bumper, Kevin.
Yeah, and I was just keeping an eye on the middle of the pack. Everybody's kind of clean on the restart, so no hijinks yet in the back half, Salmon.
Nope, and they're still 2 by 2. Noah's Ark coming out of turn 2, and there's a car taking a look, trying to make it 3 wide. They're beginning to think about it, and I am amazed and pretty surprised and pleased that the outside line actually seems to have quite a bit of momentum. Although as soon as I say that, Skip Worthington says, all right, I've had enough of this. I'm going back down low. It looks like he will lead lap 12 as they come around this time by, Drew.
Yeah, although right now he's kind of shooting up the middle, but this could be a bad call. Ooh, and just about gets back in line in time. He almost got caught out and would have been shot down the middle of both trains there for a minute there. But right now he is back on the inside line.
And Mickey Edmondson goes out to the lead. Richard Wedstead calls out clear over the radio and it's going to work with him. Now, are we going to see these two break off into a tandem and try and break away from the rest of the pack? Doesn't work as well as it used to on iRacing. 2 reasons for that. 1, these drivers are required to have more than 50% grill tape on their front ends, so really you can't bump draft for more than a lap without blowing up. And also 2, bump drafting in the turns on this new build does have a tendency to get the guy in front of you sideways, and you do not want to wreck if you're at the front of the pack, because you're probably going to take about another 30 cars with you. Mickey Edmondson leads another lap about the top end cars, single file, Kevin.
And I was just taking a look, a couple cars coming out of pit lane, at least one of them, Jeff Graham, not really sure why he was stopping under green.
Yeah, and we'll try and have a look at that, but I was watching a near accident about 8th place coming off of lap 2. Carl Burke and Gary Nichols got very close to each other, but they were able to get away with it, and we continue on without much attrition, without any attrition rather, as the field comes around to complete lap 14 now. The front of the field remains the same as before, so those drivers who pitted have about half a lap on the rest of the field, but at the same time, if they can't get drafting partners, they may find themselves going a lap down very soon, Joe.
Yeah, I was kind of watching Carl Burke right before you called him out. I noticed that he was up on the high line, and he's dropped back quite a bit from what I remember at the start. So he is possibly ruining his decision. He tried to drop into the low line, but then he went back high. I'm not sure what exactly he's doing, but he's back onto the high line right now, and he just keeps falling farther and farther back.
And as these laps click off, we are going to have to start thinking that these lead cars who did not pit under last caution will be pitting for fuel at about lap 40, and if that happens under green, that could certainly get entertaining. But that's a long way away right now. Let's put the camera on this battle for about 7th on back, as they're 2 by 2. Jimbo Pfeiffer just going up to the high line, trying to pick up the momentum of the train behind, led by... can't quite tell who that is. Carl Burke, who we were just talking about, and they're really starting to get dicey down here, down the backstretch.
Yeah, it looks like Carl Burke just hooked up with Jimbo and was pushing him a little bit, but now he's got to back off as they're into the corner. This is really going to require these guys to know their competitors, know that the guy next to them is someone they can trust. If you hook up with them, you got to trust that they're going to be able to push at the right time and pull back at the right time.
Yeah, and the positions are certainly going to be beginning to jostle around as they do this. Now, I'm not too worried about these drivers going too wide. It's when they begin to get 3 wide that's going to get a bit difficult, because you may notice that as if the lines are going the same speed, the drivers at the back really have nowhere to go. They actually have a bit of difficulty advancing their position because of the revs, because of the limited revs, because of the restrictor plates. Certainly not an issue this early in the race. Your position doesn't matter right now, but it is something to think about for later. These drivers will have to start thinking about track position before the end of the race, Kevin.
Yeah, we're only about 18 laps in, so it's a little early for them to be thinking about that. Mickey Edmondson obviously was thinking about it enough that he wanted to get out into some clean air and has done so, and is right now, it looks like that lead pack is really kind of running flawlessly right now. Everybody's being patient. As soon as I say that, though, Worthington is starting to hop up on the outside. Maybe he's decided he's had enough, but this could be a bad decision because nobody's going with him right now, and he's going to run out of space to get back down below. So he's going to lose some spots, it looks like, as they come out of NASCAR 4.
Here comes the freight train. Skip Worthington is going to fall back a few positions in that orange number 14 car. That's Tim Reiber about to pass him for 4th place. And now this is actually the first time this race we've seen Tim Reiber behind Sheila Reiber. So we'll see if they begin to work together. But yeah, Skip Worthington losing speed. He is going 193 miles an hour as he drags the wall a little bit right there. Finally able to pull down low, but this is actually going to separate the pack a bit because Troy Anderson in front of him is going about 5 miles an hour faster, Joe.
Yeah, so he really probably made the wrong decision there. Although, as we said, it's still early days, so they've got a long ways to go. But these guys are mostly staying in line. Everyone's showing a lot of cool heads, a lot of maturity, and I'm impressed with these guys. Now, the one I'm curious about, was it Jimbo, the one that said that he thought oval racing was easy? Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. We interviewed him after his victory in the roof class at Daytona Road Course, and I'm watching the guy driving second right now. He actually put a couple of wheels Richard Wedstead below the yellow lines. Didn't know if he was going to try and make a move for the lead, but he doesn't, so we'll go back to talking about Jimbo. We asked him if he was going to be at the Daytona Oval race, and he said, yes, I am, but I don't have any oval experience, but I don't think it matters because it's really not too hard. Well, we'll have to wait and see where he finishes this race, riding in 12th right now, Joe.
And we've got a caution, it sounds like. I didn't see quite what happened. I'm going to try and find it.
A lot of damage to Scott Hutchinson coming into the pits in the number 91 car.
We're checking it out on the replay. It looks like in NASCAR 4, someone got squarely in front of him. That's Kayleen Hoy. Just got out of shape, and he had nowhere to go. Ran into the back of her and then slid up into the wall. Kayleen also backed herself into the wall. Nobody else seemed to make contact. Everyone kept out of the way.
And I think that's just a bit of inexperience in the draft, because she was riding behind Mark Rediker. And the problem is, if you're drafting behind someone, you really don't have a lot of visibility of the turn. So if you're not thinking about where you are in the turn, you may not actually know how much radius, how much input you should be putting into the steering wheel. And then when you realize, oh, I need to be putting in a little more, or oh, I need to be putting in a little less, it can throw your car off balance if it isn't quite set up right and result in a spin. And unfortunately, I think that's what happened to Kaylee right there. Anyhow, it looks like a fielder on pit road, Kevin.
Yep, and I do want to point out that Kayleen Hoy, when she was spinning, did accidentally contact Kevin Kernodle. Obviously, nothing that much she could have done there. Kernodle sustained some damage. And interesting enough, just a couple laps before that, he did basically the exact same thing that Kayleen did. Got low, got a little loose, in the corner in the draft, and put it below on the apron, and just barely managed to keep it together. Almost bounced it off the wall a couple of times. So, maybe this is a good time for us to take a break, Samuel.
Yes, maybe, as Mickey Edmondson wins the race off of pit road, but some cars stayed out. We will reset the field for you after these messages. Double file behind the pace car, lights off, getting set for our second restart of the day here at Daytona International Speedway. Drivers line up the front row, paying a bit of attention to Sheila's paint scheme under the last caution.
Yeah, it was. It looks like both the shepherds, or excuse me, both the drivers are involved with Sentinel Shepherds, which I believe is a dog training facility out of beautiful Port Townsend, Washington. I've been to Port Townsend many times myself. It's a great town, and the entire vicinity is fantastic. So that's pretty cool, and I hope they have a lot of fun doing that.
Yes, well, I'm sure they're certainly having fun racing here at Daytona today. Husband and wife, a brother and sister, two people with random names who happen to be racing very close to each other in the same race, who knows? But right now they are running first and second with Joshua Gardiner and David Browning, haven't mentioned him today, up in fourth place in that white number 39 car on the outside. As they get set to reach, have about 176 laps to go, but Joe, in about 20 laps, I think some of these lead cars are going to have to make a pit stop.
Yeah, those driving.
Yep, pace car is indeed in pit road. Sheila waiting for the very last second to go. Now they're going. You can pass on the outside once the green flag flies before the line. Now, I have a feeling Tim's going to try and drop in line in front of Joshua and take second place away, but the hole might not be there for him, and it's not. So Tim Ryber is going to drop back through the field a little bit. Sheila is going to pull away with the lead with Joshua Gardiner behind her in second, Kevin.
Yeah, first of all, I want to apologize if you're experiencing any difficulties. We are having all kinds of internet problems right now in Washington for some reason. But Sheila's got a great start on the outside line there with Tim tucked in behind her. And that's the 131 of Joshua Gardner, that black car on the inside row, having a great little run with Lawrence Stanton tucked in behind him in that National Guard 13. Doing pretty well. They're having a good draft battle going on right there on the inside, Samuel.
That certainly tells us that Sheila's loyalties ride with Tim, because she went up on the high line to pick him up, despite the fact that we've seen that the high line has not been the desirable line during this race. But they're going to try and make it work and pull out in front of Joshua Gardiner. They're side by side coming through turn 2, Joe.
Yeah, and now he's picking up. He's starting to pull up, and she has got a good run coming down the backstretch. In fact, she is absolutely dropping Gardner, who's falling back on the inside. In fact, he's all the way down to fourth, so this inside line is losing their momentum fast.
202 miles an hour down on that backstretch, and that's with a restricted entrance. Sheila going to lead another lap here at Daytona. I've lost count of how many that is. Joshua Gardiner and David Browning riding side by side for third and fourth, and in the top 5, that is Brian Marstella in that green and orange car, Kevin.
Yeah, and you're riding on board right now with the 131 of Joshua Gardner, and he just got very close to the 39 of David Browning just a moment ago. But you can see Josh trying to get in the draft of the Rivers and maybe catch up with them a little bit. But he's got nobody working with him right now, Samuel. He's got a bit of a gap in front of him and behind him.
Yes, and that could be very unfortunate if the cars behind get a run and they get ran over. It seems weird in road racing, or in fact even in the normal oval race, you would think that a good lead is what you want. But here at Daytona and Talladega, no, you do not want the gap in between you and the car behind, because then they can get a run at you and pass you easily. Very sudden lane change there by Brian Marstella, who was falling back on the outside lane. But he made it work for him, currently running in 7th place. And about 3/4 of the field is now running on the low line, Joe.
Yeah, so it looks like a lot of people are really preferring that. I mean, it makes sense. It's the shortest way around the track. Speaking of which, it looks like that is Lawrence Danton, who's lost the group and is currently up on the high side. But now he's got a freight train coming up behind him, so maybe he can get that back. But Sheila and Tim goes just back to what I was telling you. Obviously, these two are familiar with one another on the track, and they probably have done a bit of practice. We saw them very high up in the timing sheets for that. And they've not only worked themselves up to the front, but together, and continue to hold it quite solidly. I wouldn't I wouldn't be surprised to see them work together throughout the remainder of this race and probably be able to hold up to the front because of that.
Don't know if you were able to catch it on camera, but Vernon Margheim in that red number 33 car in the tri-oval last time put a couple of wheels on the double yellow lines under the track, and it got his car a little front end happy, and that could be very dangerous late in the race if he does it at the wrong time in the wrong place. He was able to escape that time, but something we certainly need to keep an eye on. Field have just completed lap 29, and these lead cars will start to think about making a pit stop in the next 10 laps if there's no caution. Meanwhile, I'm keeping an eye on the progress of Brian Pager. He is actually still in 23rd place back in that long single file train at the back of a pack, so he's got a long ways to go still, but he also has a long time to get there, Kevin.
He does indeed, Samuel, and I've been keeping an eye on Lawrence Stanton. He finally got the number 12 of Mickey Edmondson and the 98 of Richard Wedstead to hook up with him in the outside line, but they just aren't seem to not be able to make any ground on that outside line, and the inside line just seems to be slowly moving away from them, Samuel.
Yeah, I think what it takes to get the outside line going is three things. First, you need a car up front that has a lot of speed, whether that be through a good setup or a good wheel take setting. Also, you need a lot of cars behind drafting them, and then also you need a bit of time. When you form that pack on the high side, it doesn't go straight away. Sometimes it takes a few laps for it to come in, and you actually see here Lawrence Stanton being able to hold ground with Brian Marstella for a little bit there. We'll see in a couple of laps if he's able to make a pass on him or not. That was 31 laps in the book. Sheila Reiber still leading, and they're still side by side from 6th down to about 16th, Kevin.
Yeah, you said it, side by side, some good action, so it's just trying to pick what we want to watch right now, and everybody seems to have settled down, be patient a little bit, so I'm glad to see that, you know, they had a couple of dual races, practice races earlier this week, and I guess there were quite a bit of cautions, and some drivers kind of, you know, got out amongst the community and said, hey, we need to settle down if we're going to be able to run all these races, and it looks like after a little bit of hiccups earlier on today, maybe they've settled down for a bit.
Here's the thing I'm loving about this race. Everyone is still in it, and obviously part of that is contributed to the 2-3 repair rules. There's 22 cars still in the lead pack, then there's about a 1.5 gap back to the second pack, which 14 cars in it. There are 2 cars not on the lead lap, 1 car is 2 laps down, 1 car is 3 laps down. If there's enough cautions, and unfortunately I think there will be, they'll be able to get those laps back with the Lucky Dog Awards. So I think everyone is still in this race, and certainly they're putting on quite a show right now as they come around to complete lap 33, Joe.
Yeah, you know, I've been watching Brian Pager with him being at the lead of that second pack back there, and they're not really losing touch this time around now that he's got guys to hook up with. But it makes me wonder with the way he dropped, if he had some sort of damage somewhere along the line or something that happened to his car, because it's unusual for you to get pole and then drop off so suddenly like that.
Yeah, well, he did start at the back. Maybe he's just being patient about trying to work his way up through the field. He has caught up to the back of the lead pack now, with Craig Capon at the back of that pack in the Jimmy Johnson Lowe's painted car in the 00. Maybe a 48 would be a little ideal on the side there. May very much get him a win. What do you think, Kevin?
I think it's a little early to be talking about the win so far, but Samuel, I want to go back to that outside line of Lawrence Stanton and Richard Wedstead and Mickey Edmondson and Carl Burke. It's just a little 4-pack right now, and it really seems like it's not working for them. So do they really need more than 4 cars to make that outside line work?
Yeah, I think they're going to need at least about 10 cars to make it work. 4 cars are certainly not going to do the job, and you know, it looks like everyone wants to get single file at this stage in the race. It's the safest way around, is if all the cars are single file. Certainly not what the spectators want to see, but a lot of these drivers seem to be realising, as they actually get a 5th car pulling up at the back there, the That's Skip Worthington, who was running up front earlier. Running in 18th right now, so maybe 5 cars will work. I still don't think that's quite enough, but we'll wait and see. And also Dan Stussy poking his nose out at the back there, but decides to stay on the low line. So we've now got 5 cars up on that high line, but I think you're going to see that high line either dissipate really soon, or more cars go up there. But one thing you've got to consider is this lead pack is certainly going to want to stay single file, because if they have to pit in about 5 laps, they do not want to be stuck in the high line and find out, oh, we're out of fuel, we need to get back down low, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, honestly, if I was one of these 5 cars up on the top pack here, I would be doing anything I can to find myself a little bit of space and squeeze down to the lower line here, because at least you'd be holding position down in that lower pack. Right now, they're continuing to drop them bit by bit as the race goes on. And the farther back into the midst of everything you get, the more risk you run of something going wrong and having no place to go. So these guys really need to consolidate positions at this point, as I'm watching Skip Worthington really falling back, actually.
Yeah, but I contrary to that, it doesn't really matter if you're in the collision.
We have a spin.
Yes,
Crash.
and we're going to have a few cars in the collision here. That is, oh, I'm going to try and get some names
was
for
one
you.
of the cars involved.
Ryan Toma, and they're still wrecking in turn 3. Kevin Kernodle, again, that's his 2nd wreck. He can't afford another wreck. Toby Butler, and it was Richard Wedstead who was spinning around in the middle of a pack. So about a 6 or 7 car collision here on lap 34, and this is great for the cars that hadn't pit yet, Joe.
Yeah, just about perfect timing that they could have asked for. It looks like Wedstead, from what we're seeing on the replay, is the one that kicked that off.
No,
and
Joe,
then...
I'm gonna contradict that. I think that was Carl Burke got into the back of Ryan Toma, spun Toma into Wedstead.
Oh, you're right. I just didn't quite see that contact. So yeah, it looks like that Carl Burke was once again the guy that caused us to, not quite our first big one, but certainly a number of cars have been caught out by this.
And, you know, it kind of looked to me like Carl Burke was trying to do what we were talking about earlier and get into that low line, but I guess Toma just wasn't clear of him, and it was a little early to make the move.
Yeah, you got to pay very close attention to your spotter, and some of these guys might have the iRacing spotter on, which is an automatic that'll tell you, you know, when another car is to your left or to your right, and that can be relatively reliable, but sometimes it just gets it wrong because there's a bit of net lag, so you have to be careful of that. But the same thing could go for, you know, if you've got a human spotter, you can have someone actually in your ear telling you, and, well, I mean, we're all human, and to err is human, so sometimes we just get it wrong.
You gotta feel bad for Richard Wedstead there, because he actually was in front of the 2 cars that caused the collision. Anyhow, 2 cars at the front of the pack coming down pit road right now. Carl Burke was able to escape from that wreck and was still running in 14th place. And we're going to go to the break as Sheila Ryber leads the pack down pit road, and the leader of the cars still on track is Carl Clemens. And back right in time to watch 20-year-old Kyle Clemens lead them to the green flag on his 3rd restart of the race. Roy Anderson on the right side on the flag on the corner. The cars are hitting now, restarting from about 15th place. And look at the high line already has dissipated down low. Hardly any cars up top, Joe.
Yeah, I think everybody's learned their lesson by now. In fact, it looks like I believe that is Troy Anderson up top, who's trying to find a place to get in, as he started on the front row and is just continually dropping back, but he's got no place to sneak in there, so he's just going to have to wait until he gets to the end of the line here.
Yes, Rod Flag, it looks... Oh, and there's a crash in turn 3 again. 2 cars already in it. 1 up in the air. Tim Ryber. And that is... Who is that? Flipping. David Browning has gone over about 20 times. Looks like Skip Worthington is in the orange car back there. Jeff Graham hard into the wall. S.J. Morgan, who was pinning, trying to stay out of all of it. About 6 or 7 cars in the collision once again, Kevin.
Yeah, it looks like that was the 88. Tim Reiber got a little loose up on the high side, not really sure, and came across and smacked into David Browning, who took quite a ride. As you said, he was up in the air for several hundred yards. Was that just cold tires, you think, Samuel, that caught Tim out?
I'm trying to get the replay right here, right now. Are you saying that he caused the wreck? He initiated the wreck?
Yeah, it looks to me like he got loose. He was on the high line. He got loose, came down, hit the apron, and bounced back up into poor David Browning. So the only explanation I have is cold tires, but I'm willing to be overruled on that one.
No, I think I'm going to agree with you. Ryan Otis also in that wreck. How in the world did Lawrence Stanton get through that? I would love our director, Giancarlo, to try and get an onboard replay of Lawrence Stanton, because he just drove through all that carnage in that number 13 car. I was trying to count how many times David Browning flipped over. I lost out at about 5.
Yeah, it was a little tough to count. I'm going back to what you were talking about with the... But yeah, woof, just snuck through there. In fact, he was losing control in the midst of that from what it looks like. So he has got some angels on that car.
And I'm a little worried about Skip Worthington. He still has a lot of damage on his car in pit road. Could it be that Skip Worthington is our first driver who has used up all of his free repairs?
It's a possibility. I was kind of wondering what the count was with a lot of these guys, because now that we've seen a few cautions, we know that at least some of them have used up those quick repairs. And the unfortunate thing is, too, if you've gotten just that little bit of damage from trying to bump draft with somebody, or you had just a little bit too hard of a brush with the wall, if you've done your pit stop already, which I would assume everybody has at this point, 44 laps into the race, that... you know, you've lost one of them. So some of these guys might be out even if they haven't been involved in a wreck.
And guys, you know, I can't confirm this entirely, but I think I'm picking up on the driver chatter, and it sounds like Tim Reiber may have actually had an equipment failure that kicked that off.
Well, that's one of the unfortunate sides of iRacing, that I guess it's the equivalent of actual equipment failure, but with just a little bit less physical risk to your well-being and your limbs staying attached. But we've seen it in a variety of series. Guys like Stefan Overgaard in the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series having it go out and just going headlong into a wall. Sometimes when something happens on your computer, you just can't control the car and you're along for the ride, and unfortunately for everybody else, they are too.
And that reminds me, again, also in the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series, when Dan Rash had his monitors or his PC fail on him at Watkins Glen, running in the draft to Steve Brown, and that left us confused for a good hour or so before we finally had it confirmed. Joe?
Yeah, it's one of those things where you hate to have it happen, but it always is going to happen from time to time. You can't have 100% success rate on just about everything in iRacing. So these guys are going to experience it sometime. I'm sad to see Tim have to have it happen in the middle of a Daytona 500 where he was having a pretty good run.
Well, the good news is he gets that reset and a little bit of luck, and maybe he can get that lucky dog, get back on the lead lap, and still have a chance. I mean, we still have another 155 laps to go, so I think there's probably still lots of time to go, right?
Plenty of time to go, but I'm going to question... I don't think it was an equipment failure, honestly. I'm sure they happen. It'll probably happen this race, but... really, that was just a speculation by one of the drivers. From every replay angle I watched, it just looked like Reiber had a bit of an experience with that high line on cold tires, and that is really where running the high line could be benefiting these drivers. Some of them may not have experience with it, so why not try and work out how it feels early during the race, so that when it comes time to finish the race, you can run your car anywhere. However, I've noticed that we've only got 29 cars left on the lead lap, Many cars, including Kevin Kernodle and that 69 car, still stuck on pit road, Joe.
Yeah, looks like he's definitely repairing some damage, unfortunately. Now, with us being about 45 laps in, what's the pit window on fuel looking like with these cars? I mean, at what point do they start counting backwards from the end of the race, Sam?
I would do it with about 2 pit stops left to go, which is going to be at about lap 130, so it's still a little ways out right now. But if you pit at lap 130, maybe even lap 120, you'll be able to make it to the end on one more stop. Honestly though, I think we're going to have quite a few cautions, so it's still to come, so that could certainly change everything. These lead cars seem to be quite content staying out, and they're beginning to get double file. I have a feeling we're about to see the pace car lights go off right now, and indeed they do. Carl Clements and Rod Flagg will lead them to the green again next time around, Kevin.
So what I'm wondering now is, are we going to see a repeat of the last restart where the outside line just immediately drops down into the low line again? It seems like nobody really wants to play with the outside line. The high line looks like everybody wants to be on the low line, don't you think?
Well, it is. I'm certainly expecting it at this point because of what we saw in the last restart, and everybody seems to have wised up. But the thing that I'm noticing here is look at the 4th position, number 3 car, Jimbo Pfeiffer, Mr. Oval Racing is easy. He is up at the top still. After all this chaos that has gone on. So maybe it is relatively easy for him, but it's still very early, so a lot can go wrong in the time that's remaining.
And that number 3 car and Daytona International Speedway certainly go together like peanut butter and butter. Peanut butter and jelly. That was the word I was looking for. Anyhow, pace car about to come down into turn 3 here. We'll see if we can hopefully get more than one lap in this time. And just like the opening round of the season, a surprisingly clean race so far, Kevin.
Yeah, it is. We were a little worried, I think, internally that it might be a bit of a caution fest, but we're doing okay, I think, so far. You know, there was a little bit of jitters, I think, as everybody kind of tried to get themselves sorted out. But hopefully everybody's kind of in the groove now, and we can get some laps going on.
Skip Worthington still in the pits as the field are coming around turn 4. He's going to want to pull out onto the track very soon, although he's already a lap down. Pace car about to make a hard left turn down pit road. The field will be in control of Carl Clemens, who has a sponsor on that car. Can't quite read it from here, but it's the number 19 car. He leads the number 23 of Rod Flagg on the outside. Matthew Sabowski restarting 3rd. They're side by side, no one dropping down to the bottom line yet. It looks like Rod Flagg might try and take the lead on the outside line, Joe.
Yeah, he's going to try and do the best he can. Maybe he's got a peanut butter and butter sandwich fueling himself inside that car because he was making progress for a bit, but now he's just dropping back. So I wouldn't be surprised to see these guys on the back straight try to find themselves a little gap and give up the ghost on that. Yep, there he goes right now.
And that was well done by Rod Flagg to swing that sword, get that Wazoo painted Cougar car into 3rd place on the low line there, guys.
Arizona drive shaft and differential. That is the sponsor on your lead car, Kyle Clemens, number 19 car, 20-year-old, leading this field. Matthew Sabowski up in 2nd now, who seems to be having a bit more luck than what he was at the opening round of the season, Joe, with iRacing not giving him credit for completing the 1st lap.
Oof, that's always a hard one when that happens because that's out of your control. And for those curious how that's possible, if you have a connection issue right as you cross the line, it means that iRacing doesn't know that you've crossed the line, so it doesn't count your lap. And it's a rare occurrence, but when it happens, it's just gutting, and there's a lot of work to be done. But meanwhile, Kyle Clemens doing quite well to hold the front of the field right now, although we are only on lap 48, so we're not even a quarter of the way into this thing.
High line getting... Oh, and there's a crash. I was saying the high line was getting very close to our outside wall. One car actually got in it. William Fletcher, Craig Capon, Brian Mastella, Dan Stussy, Mickey Edmondson were in it. Cole Burke still spinning. I think that's the first wreck he's actually been involved in today. But there was a blue car.
It was Samuel, it was Randy Webster. It looks like he hit the wall, slowed down, and Craig Capon, I think, wasn't able to get out of the way and kick that off. Got Brian Marsteller, and I believe you called the other names there.
Cole Burke is out of a race. He has left the building, and really, though, I think he still had the free repair left. I know we've kept calling his name as making some questionable moves during this race. Certainly not involved in the triggering of that caution, but it looks like he's our first DNF, unfortunately, Joe.
Yeah, if you remember, one of the first bigger wrecks that we had, he actually kicked it off by tipping a car in front of him, and then the two cars that were in front of him came together and collected a couple more along the way. So he was involved in a little bit of pushing and shoving, so maybe that caused a little bit of damage, that he used up one of his free cars during the pit stops. Not entirely sure. But yeah, it's sad to see one of our front runners already have to take a hike.
Dan Stussy smoking down the backstretch with the whole front end ripped off of that 17 car. I think he's been involved in a couple of collisions soon. I certainly hope that's not his race over. Also, Scott Hutchinson, Craig Capon, Skip Worthington, William Fletcher's in pit road right now. So certainly some drivers today, Kevin, even just 50 laps in, are beginning to become questionable whether they'll make it to the end or not.
And I'm actually seeing, looked like Randy Webster was actually getting a little push from Vernon Margeiler. I think Webster might have a blown engine, and it looks like he's just trying to coast into pit lane. I don't think he's going to be able to make that happen.
Yeah, Randy Webster has definitely stopped out in the infield of NASCAR 4 there, and yep, he exits out now back into his pit stall. So sad to see that one happen for him.
Yeah, and we're only a quarter of a way through, and now you were referring, I wasn't sure whether it was under caution or under green flag earlier, Kevin. You were referring to the thinning of the field when cars begin to drop out, and that means that cars at the back of the pack may start making their move. That could start occurring soon. I certainly hope it doesn't, but we've seen cars even at the back of the pack being involved in collisions, so really the only safe place here so far has been P1.
Yeah, you're right. P1's about the only place that's been able to kind of do what they want to do. Seems like the top 3 or top 5 have been running okay so far. But as I recall, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, but last year's Indy 500, we had quite a bit of action from guys that had been running deep in the back for most of the race, came back and were very much in contention for the win at the end of it.
Yes, but it was a driver who had been running up front during the entire race that was able to pull off the W. Now, the driver who's leading the race right now, Kyle Clemens, started 14th and has worked his way up to first. Sabowski is fast, and Rod Flagg and Jimbo Pfeiffer have been running up front there as well. And look at who is in 5th. Sheila Reiber already, after making that pit stop, has been able to avoid the wrecks, pick off positions. She's running 5th in that number 48 car. So you begin to notice a pattern after a while of names reoccurring up front, and they may certainly be the favourites when it comes down to the final 20 or so laps, I think, Kevin.
Well, I think you're probably right. You know, what I'm very interested in is during the practice session this afternoon, Sheila Reiber and Tim Reiber were pretty far down the timesheet, and yet here in the race they're doing pretty well. So any way you can explain that, Samuel?
Well, in practice, the top 31 cars ran a lap time in 44s. A 44 is a lap time that you can only run in the draft. 45, a high 45 is pole position qualifying time. 46 is average Joe qualifying time, aka me. So a 44 is based on how well you draft. That could come down to it's really not inaccurate. It's really inconclusive is the word I'm looking for. You can have a fast car, but if you never get a good draft in qualifying, you may end up being 20th on the board. So I really don't think these practice times mean that much. other than it tells us that the guys who were at the top of the board, Tony Butler and Brian Pager, really know what to do when it comes down to the draft. And Kevin Kernodle is out of a race, so I think that puts us down to about 33 cars now, because I think I'm going to have a look at the race order right here, but Kevin Kernodle and another car are out of a race.
That would be Carl Burke and Kevin Kernodle, who are the two that are out. Skip Worthington, despite being 4 laps down, has still got his car back out on the track, though.
Yes, and while we're still working this caution right here, let's have a quick go through the standings. Carl Clemens in the lead with Matthew Zubowski in second. Rod Flagg is third, and Jimbo Pfeiffer is fourth. Sheila Reiber is in fifth place, Kevin. Joe?
Sixth place is Gary Nichols. Gardner. 9th is Kayleen Hoy, and 10th is Lauren Stanton.
11th is Ryan Otis, 12th is Mickey Edmondson, 13th is Scott Hutchinson, 14th is Troy Anderson, 15th is Ryan Thomas, 16th is Brian Mostella, 17th is Toby Butler, 18th is Ray Fournier, 19th is Mike Willett, and 20th now is Brian Pager, Joe.
21st is Chris Beck. Vernon Marheim is in 22nd. Mark Redeker is in 23rd. Dan Stussy is holding down the 24th position. David Browning is in 25th. Craig Capon is in 26th. Richard Wedstead is in 27th. And then we get into the lapped cars. 28th is Tim Reiber. 29th is William Fletcher. And then S.J. Morgan in 30th.
31st is Randy Webster. 32nd is Brian Barnes. 33rd is Jeff Graham. And I think those are all your cars still left in the race. 34th is Carl Burke, who has left. 35th is Kevin Kernodle, who has left. And 36th is Skip Worthington, who I'm going to try and catch up with now in the Werther's car. He is still in the race, but he's multiple laps down after being involved in a few collisions early on here.
And I just want to make note of an earlier remark. Some Joes are not average. Thank you very much.
Yes, certainly. I think we've had a couple of United States presidents named Joe. I'll have to double check on that. I know we've had Samuel and Samuel Morse have accomplished in the field to the line again. Matthew Sabowski laying back quite far. I'm not really sure what he's going to try and accomplish here. Look at that, he's trying to get a jump on the start. Can't really beat Carl to the line. Now he gets on it. Brian Barnes has just lost the connection. Matthew Sabowski took a run at Carl Clemens. He's going to try and clear him, getting down into turn 1, Joe.
Yeah, he knew that was pretty much his only chance, and it looks like it wasn't quite enough. They're now into turns 1 and 2, and he's starting to drop back quick here. So it looks like he's going to have to slot in line as now he claims and consolidates that second position behind Kyle Clemens.
He's got his peanut butter and butter sandwich and is attached to the rear bumper of a number 19 black car. That's Rod Flagg in third place. Side by side now, here comes Sheila going underneath for Jimbo for fourth position. They're side by side in the battle there from 4th to 7th, although they get single file behind Sheila and Rod and Jimbo. And Jimbo, there's a hole open for him there if he wants to take 5th place, but he doesn't seem quite content with that right now, Kevin.
Yeah, and that doesn't make any sense to me. He is the only car out on the high line, and there he is. He's finally coming down. He was going to get just worked if he didn't make that move, so it's good to see he did do that, because I guess oval racing isn't quite as easy as maybe he's making out.
Well, he's certainly running in the top 5 still, which was something definitely not to be ashamed of. They're working lap 54 right now, so still early days here. And they're beginning to get a double file at about position 11, but it looks like they're going to sort it out with Troy Anderson trying to work a high side, but he's all on his lonesome. Doesn't have room to come down right now though, Joe.
Yeah, he was kind of stuck out there, and he is the only one in that lead pack stuck out. So one is the loneliest number for poor Troy at the moment. He's got Ryan Otis below him, and he can't really go anywhere. But now Brian Marsteller must have felt bad for him, gave him a pity draft from behind here, and but it doesn't look like it's going to help. So But now he's starting to make up time though, as he's got a little bit of a help from Brian. So maybe it is actually working.
Brian Marsteller has been beginning to get that orange and the green car in the spotlight now up on that high line. He's been flirting around the top 10 all race long, and now finally the cameras are starting to get on him as he begins to make a move or two here and there. They're working the outside of Lawrence Stanton here for 9th position, but still single file in front of them, and they can't race too hard for too long. Otherwise, they may start to lose contact with the leaders, although, judging by the amount of cautions we've had so far, Kevin, maybe another caution will reel them right back in.
Yeah, and it looked like there was almost a moment in the lead pack there a little bit, as a couple cars looked like they weren't sure if they were going to go too wide or not. But I'm watching Marsteller and Attrition right now. They have hooked up, and they're moving a little bit forward on the outside line here, Samuel.
Yes, they certainly are. Let's see where they cross the line this time by. It looks like they're starting to work their way up into about 8th and 9th position. Here they go around the outside of Gary Nichols for oh, look at Troy Anderson get loose there. Certainly cold tyres on the high line is, I didn't think that would be a factor in this race today, but we've certainly seen them get loose a few times. And as these two rally up to the front, I'm surprised more cars aren't trying to join them, Joe.
Well, maybe this is a case of just the two-car tandem doing a little bit better than everybody trying to make a group going, because they can push each other. Although Marsteller won't be able to do it for very long. He's not getting right up on his bumper, but getting close enough that he's got to worry about that. Now he's giving a little bit of a shove. Slowly but yet surely, he's trying to make progress. I think this could have been one of the cleverest moves we've seen all day.
Troy Anderson, a 40-year-old from the Northwest who was running second earlier, hasn't been able to lead the race today yet though. That may very well change. At the rate they're going, it could change within a few seconds here. Look at the low line, they're just not keeping together. Carl Clemens had about 5 car lengths over Matthew Sabowski, and that causes them to lose the draft a little bit. But if Troy Anderson is going to want to keep his partner with him, he's going to have to wait just a little bit longer, because Brian Marsteller cannot clear Carl Clemens yet. Oh, bump drafting in the tri-oval's not a great idea, and Brian thinks twice of it. Those two drivers are really trying to clear the 19 before they take a low line away, if they even decide to take a low line away. The high line seems to be working quite well for them right now.
Yeah, in fact, we've got about 4 cars in this group now. I guess more guys decided this is the way to go. And credit to Troy Anderson and Marsteller for making that work. I think we all doubted it when we saw it happen. But, yeah, it looks like he's just kind of holding on to that lead with Kyle Clemens down low there. So maybe we finally got a race for the high side here, guys.
Well, I got to point out that Troy Anderson was 12th when he started that move. And he and Marsteller absolutely in the lead right now, and I think Gary Nichols, the number 8 car behind Marsteller, saw them just running away and decided he had to get in on that. Joshua Gardner struggling to make that work a little bit. He got very, very loose a few moments ago, and we can see Anderson and Marsteller down on the low line now, so they've definitely made that high line work to their advantage. That was awesome to watch.
And as they did that, Carl Clemens got very sideways, almost losing it in turns 1 and 2, bouncing off the apron. But he's in 3rd place now, and unfortunately for Gary Nichols and Joshua Gardner, they're not able to tandem as well as those top 2 cars were, and they're actually going to start falling back now on that high side. So, I think Troy Anderson and Brian Marsteller are going to have to try and keep together for the rest of this race, Joe, because they certainly seem to know what they're doing.
Yeah, and I was going to say, it just shows you where loyalties lie in this thing, because as soon as they saw that both of them were clear, both Marsteller and Anderson just chopped on down in front of Clemens to try and get on that low line. They made it work, but they knew it was going to be a tall order to make it work for the entire day. So they decided it's probably easier to keep on that low line. They've got the track position now, and might as well just make life a little easier on themselves.
And I got to point out, I heard them on the radio, Marsteller and Attrition, talking to each other at the end of that and thanking each other for the push and the work to get into the front. So I think they have found some drafting partners today with each other, and I bet this is a partnership we might see work out well later on.
61 laps in the book now, 27 cars left on the lead lap, and in about 10 laps, if they keep going, they will have to start the battling with lap traffic, so we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Still 3 cars on the high line. Oh no, it's 2 now, as down low comes Joshua Gardiner, and that high line is pretty much dead at the front of the field, although who's this coming up? Gary Nickel, who was there already. Okay, so it's still running there in about the top 4 or 5, but I just don't see it working unless they get their bumpers a little bit closer together, Kevin.
Well, you know, that was Ryan Otis in the gray and red 80 car who pulled out behind Gardner and has actually moved up a few spots because of that. I think he was in about 13th or so as well, and I'm showing him currently running, I think it's 6 on track. So he has figured out that, yeah, that's a little bit there. So it kind of looks to me like if you're in about 10th or 12th and there's a car on the outside line running about 3rd or 4th or something like that, you might be able to get a really nice little slingshot draft. And if the two of you can work together, maybe you can push each other. So let's see if Otis and Nichols can kind of hook up here. We can see Otis is trying to pull in behind Nichols and get that draft going. But it's just that two-car tandem just doesn't seem to be quite as effective for these two guys as it was for Anderson and Marsteller.
Well, if you'll watch Ryan, he's not quite getting as close up to Nichols as Marsteller was to Anderson. Marsteller was right up on that bumper, really trying to push him. And Otis just seems a little bit timid. He's really got to kind of suck it up and get on that rear bumper so that they can get their momentum going.
And we can see Jimbo Pfeiffer is pulled in behind Otis as well, also trying to make that high line working, but now it doesn't seem to be working as Rod Flagg and Sheila River look to be a little stronger on the low line. And now it looks like Gary Nichols has had enough on the high line. He's pulled in on the low line in front of Flagg.
Yeah, the low line certainly beginning to come into effect now as this run begins to have a bit of a green flag look to it. And I was watching, they were coming up on the lap car of S.J. Morgan, but he pulls into pit road, so not going to have to worry about him. But still, 2 by 2 at about 6th place here. And yeah, Ryan Otis, the bottom line is open for him right now, and he may as well just take it, and that's what he does.
And poor Jimbo Pfeiffer has been hung out to dry. He was trying to find a spot inside as well and couldn't quite get in there. Thankfully, he didn't cause a wreck. But now he's dropping to the back of this little pack here, and it looks like he's going to lose a number of spots as the first opening is all the way back behind Kayleen Hoy in 11th.
And remember, Kayleen Hoy was involved in that first yellow that we had, so it's good to see her with a full car, a repaired car, running well. And I can see right now that looks like Ray Fournier. He's in gold spot right now, and he's trying to hook up in the outside line behind Jimbo Pfeiffer, but he may be a little too far behind in the draft to really make that effective right now.
Yeah, I'm watching about the cars on the scoreboard from about 11th down to 20th, who are all in the lead pack. A lot of them have had 1, maybe even 2 incidents and been able to use their free repairs to keep in it. And of course, the one that stands out is the one in 17th position, the number 39 car of David Browning, who went for a vicious tumble earlier that in real life probably would have sent him to the hospital. But in the miracle of iRacing, he's up here still racing for a win, Joe.
Yeah, and as the leaders make progress, they do have a lapped car of Craig Capone just in front of them. It's going to be a few laps before they catch him, but that's going to be something that he's got to keep his head up and watch out as these leaders come by. And guys who are still trying the high line are really going to have to watch out because they're going to come up on him very quick. So lap traffic could come into play here.
Yes, and 3 wide, it doesn't always work. As a matter of fact, a bit of a spoiler alert in the Daytona 500, 3 wide did not work in Florida just about 10 minutes ago. However, like you say, they will soon be catching that traffic, including S.J. Morgan is back out on the track in front of him. The cars who are running the high line have fallen all the way to the back of his lead pack. And currently, Troy Anderson still leading them around this 2.5 mile speedway, 67 laps on the ball, Kevin.
Yeah, it looks like that lap car that we were worrying about ducked into pit lane, boy, getting run over by 108.
That was S.J. Morgan who was riding that back trying to stay out of the wrecks. Unfortunately, the wrecks came around him and his race has gone downhill since then. In fact, if you consider 2 laps down as far as in contention you can go, there's about 31 cars left in contention, 27 cars on the lead lap, but Craig Capon may soon lose that status very soon.
Yeah, they're gaining on him pretty quick, so I anticipate maybe 4 or 5 more laps before they're on top of him, maybe less than that. They're closing it up, but not as quickly as I might have initially anticipated. Still, there's a few guys up on the high side that I can see. In fact, maybe 4 or 5 cars from what it looks like. So those guys have really got to slot in, or else we could see some very interesting stuff happen once the pack catches Capon.
Yeah, Craig Capon, although I believe he will stay high when this lead pack catches him, he could always stay low, and then it's going to be the guys on the low line who are going to have to find something to do.
Samuel, I got to jump in. There was a wreck here between Skip Worthington and Chris Beck. Chris Beck got loose into the wall, and Skip Worthington had nowhere to go. So 2 kind of solo incidents, and we still have green flag running right now.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Kevin, about a lap ago I saw all that damage on Skip Worthington's car. I just had a feeling it was from an early incident. His race has certainly gone downhill since the last caution when he lost his 2-3 repairs, and certainly not taken a turn for the better there. Unfortunately, we'll try and see if we can find a replay of that. It's probably happened too long ago now. But right now we're just keeping an eye on this lead pack as leaders run single file, and about 8 on the back row, Joe, that double file as Skip Worthington has retired from the race.
Unfortunate to hear, since Skip was up towards the front early on, but wasted opportunities, you know, always there in racing. You can always look back, and hindsight allows you to try and criticize, you know, your decisions, but you can only move forward from here on out. Speaking of moving forward, though, Craig Capon trying his best to hustle it up, but these guys are really reeling him in. I think they've got maybe a lap and a half more, and they should be right on top of him.
Rod Flag and the number 23 car is right in the middle of this 10th place on the low line in the number 23 car in that the Cougars grey car. He has just announced he is coming into the pits this lap, and he has got a pack of cars behind him, so this could be very dangerous. He needs to get on the apron before he slows down. And look at that, Sheila Riber backed out, gets a little bit of contact from behind by Kayleen Hoy. The only 2 female drivers in the race come together, but it could have been a lot worse. So well done on Rod for getting that car to pit road without any collisions.
Yeah, everybody kept their heads up and kept a cool temperament there, so thankfully it worked out. Still got this pack trying to make that work, and he's got a little bit of a tandem buddy, though, with Vernon Marheim, who is pushing him down the back straight, so they're making a little bit of progress, but it could be impeded quite soon here.
It's going to be impeded very soon. I have a feeling they're going to catch Craig in turns 1 and 2. Now, Craig is going on the high line, it looks like. So, the leaders will be safe. This single file pack that goes for about only the first 3 cars, as a matter of fact, should be good. It's the cars that are still 2 file. But look at that. That is very intelligent. They're all getting single file to go by Craig, and hopefully they should get through without incident.
Yes, leaders are getting by him now. Just a quick note, though, Jimbo Pfeiffer did duck into the pits last time by, so he is elected to start his pit cycle here on lap 73. We'll have to see how that plays out for him, Kevin.
Yeah, and he had only had 1 stop earlier, so he must have been completely out of gas. So I think that was a pit cycle strategy that didn't work out for him. Rod Flag, I'm a little confused by because that is his 3rd stop, and I see cars spinning on the infield out of approaching the tri-oval. Samuel, did you catch that?
Kayleen Hoy, I did not catch it, but a few cars coming into the pits. I wonder if it was cars trying to come into the pits and they just got together. Gary Nichols was very slow because he was coming into the pits. Kayleen Hoy and Mickey Edmonton ran into each other trying to slow down. Kayleen got the worst end of it.
Yeah, everybody else seemed to manage to make an emergency pit stop there. I'm trying to see who the other car was that you mentioned. Yeah, Mickey Edmondson. I guess he had a surprise pit stop, so his crew has probably had to jump on out and get him some fresh tires, but he decided to make the best of it.
And that leaves 11 cars in the lead pack, and now they're going to have lots of lap traffic, including S.J. Morgan. Look at that! Look at Gary Nichols riding really slow on the low line. The field has to go high to go around him, and I'm sure they were a bit caught off guard there, because if you see a pack coming up behind you, you probably need to commit to either the apron or ride in the wall, because they're going to be coming at about 10 miles an hour faster than you, and they're not all going to slow down for you. So it's your responsibility really as a lap car to let these guys by. And we got more cars coming into the pits here. The 19 car of Carl Clements and Joshua Gardiner. I think he was speeding on pit road there, honestly.
Yeah, he came in there pretty hot. Kyle Clements, and they actually made contact trying to come into their pit stalls. So those two cars came together and they're going to lose one of their free cars here.
Very unfortunate. However, they have been running up front through most of the race, so I don't think that's going to hurt them too much. Even if they do lose the free cars, I don't know. Was the contact that significant in your opinion?
Yeah. Kyle Clements, yeah, definitely got damage on both sides of the car. He bounced off of off the car and off the pit wall. Kind of did a little bit of ping pong action there.
Well, miraculously, we're still under green, so guys are having to make these green flag stops, and it's thrown everybody a bit for a loop. We've seen a couple of incidents here already, Sam.
So,
yep.
Samuel, I got to ask you a question. So, Gary Nichols, he was coming out of pit lane, and he joined between the Tri-Oval and NASCAR 1, and he was still very slow. Shouldn't he have waited to get onto the back straight before joining?
Yes, but if there's no one behind you, if you've got a clear track behind you, and iRacing gives you a tool to let you know how close cars are relative to you, you should be able to pull out before turn 1. However, if there's a pack of cars behind you, it's best to just wait for the backstretch. So yeah, that was, in my opinion, not the brightest of moves by Gary, but they all got through it. We're still under green, no harm, no foul. And we got a battle for the leaders. Ray Fournier is being pushed up to the side of Troy Anderson, who still leads after all of that.
Yeah, those guys have been trying for a few laps here. Fournier had worked his way up to the front in the same fashion that Anderson and Mosteller had before, with Fournier pairing up with, I'm trying to see who that is, that's Vernon Marheim. So, and in fact, it's worked for them because they are now up to the front.
And we should point out, actually, that Ray Fournier has been in pit lane 6 times. Vernon Marheim has been in pit lane 8 times. So even though they've had quite a few stops, this has worked out pretty well for them. And they had a little bit of chatter just now between them saying, yeah, we did it. So they're obviously very pleased.
Yeah, they're certainly working with each other as they catch the lap car of Carl Clemens, who was running for the lead a little while ago, but has no drafting partner. That's something you have to consider when you come into the pits. You do not want to come out on your own. You do not want to take 4 tires if everyone else does fuel only, because you could be on your own and you can go a lap down in a hurry, as are a lot of cars right now, as a matter of fact. These drivers who pitted under the last caution able to stay out longer, and currently we have just 17 cars on the lead lap.
And Samuel, there was another 2-car tandem between Richard Wedgstead and David Browning going on, and they have just picked up a bunch of spots as well. So it looks like guys are finding drafting partners in a 2-car tandem to actually work pretty well for them right now.
Where I'm trying to figure out what's going on with Fournier, though, he has stayed on the high side and not going down low where his partner is, Vernon. And poor Vernon was confused trying to figure out which way he should go. Almost tried to duck up, but then he realized he was going to lose out. So he chopped back down in front of Troy Anderson, and that's allowed him to stay up in front. But boy, some confusing moves there from Fournier there.
Yeah, and it's very interesting watching Carl Clemens, a 20-year-old in that number 19 car, working with a lap car of Brian Barnes. This means that if those two work together, they could pull away from this lead pack, but if they don't, it means this lead pack is going to have to try and pass 2 cars at the same time who are trying to work with each other and remain in contention in this race. So this could be a little bit of exciting, for a lack of a better term, as they almost went 3 wide right there, but Troy Anderson backs out of it. We're not even halfway yet, and Vernon Marheim keeps the lead, Kevin.
He does, and I'm watching these guys, and Marheim is off on the below the yellow line on the back oval. Do you have any explanation for that, Samuel? That kind of seems a little weird to be all the way over that far inside there.
No, but I'm just questioning his overall experience a little bit, because that's not the first time he's done that this race. Maybe he's just like, oh, as we got a car in the wall there.
That was Richard Wedstead, I believe. No, excuse me, David Browning into the wall.
Yeah, and that's not the first time we've seen that earlier. So his driver's certainly using up all of the track. And really, though, you don't need to do that, Daytona. You just need to hold one line. It'll get you around just as fast as anything else. But yeah, this tandem between Brian Barnes and Carl Clemens not going to plan for them. Carl Clemens may very soon lose a lap here, although certainly if there's another caution, he could easily be back in the race. As they begin to all go high, I don't know if they're thinking about going double file or thinking about passing the tandem in front of them up high. And Richard Wedstead has worked his way back up to second. I haven't really been paying much attention to him, though, but he certainly came back and has a little bit of damage, though, on the front left end of that car.
Yeah, you know, I'm not sure if it was at the right or the front, the left, because I know he got tipped on the right side about a lap ago by Fournier.
And I'm sorry I've got to cut intro, but look at this. The tandem in front of him has broke up and they're taking up both lanes. And it's very fortunate that Carl Clemens decided to go up to the high line, because otherwise the leaders would have had nowhere to go. Back to you, Joe.
Yeah, I was going to say, Fournier and Wedstead made some bad contact as Fournier had come down on him when he wasn't quite clear.
Oh, Clemens very close there.
Yeah, I just saw that myself. He was getting very squirrely. I'm not sure what was going on there as cars now spread out coming up towards the tri-oval. We've got a two-car race here as guys are hooking up. Now Wedstead has gone low, and it looks like that's Fournier up front on the high side.
Yeah.
Samuel, I have another question for you. We've been on a green flag run here now for about 33 laps or so. Is tire wear having an effect out there?
Oh, no. No. The only thing tire wear could really play up is if you come to pit road and you lock up all your tires, you may want to think about changing your tires. Don't think it affects the handling, but better safe than sorry. These drivers may very well just take two tires when they come down into the pits. But yeah, certainly we're gonna start seeing some more pit stops in about 5 laps by these guys who pitted under the last caution, if they've been out here for 33 laps under green.
Well, it looks like Fournier has figured out a way to make that high side work as he's hooked up with Troy Anderson now. Although Anderson decides he's had enough of that and moves low and is trying to take the lead away.
And it's working for him so far, but he's got to have a drafting partner, and they're 3 wide for third. Look at this, Brian Mostel on the outside. No, they go double file. Very intelligent there. Very intelligent racing by these guys up front. Let's could still be in this race. And really, I'm kind of curious, Kevin, because when this lead pack pits, they're not going to be the lead pack anymore. They're going to come out in the middle of the rest of the field that pit about 10 laps ago.
Yeah, and I'm definitely wondering just how this is going to shake out the order of everybody.
3 wide in turns 1 and 2, and it almost got very ugly there between Ray Fournier, Brian Marstella, and Rod Flagg, who was actually a lap car running in that lead pack. Back to you, Kevin.
Well, I was just saying I was wondering how the order is going to shake out. But right now I'm watching David Browning, who looks like he's got an anchor tied on the back of his car. He's just been dropping like crazy and can't even seem to stay in the draft of anybody right now. So I think there must be something up with his car.
Potentially. It looks all right here. That white iRacing Ford Fusion running in... What position is he in? 8th? I don't think that's quite... Yeah, he's down to 10th now. So yeah, I don't really know what happened to Rob there, but it's certainly going to take him out of the equation when these cars come down to pit road. Hopefully he won't run over anyone all the way back down there. As we watch Virgin Margine again get very squirrely down the backstretch, and although he's running up front and he's certainly proving he's fast, that's certainly not encouraging for the other drivers. They're going to begin thinking, hey, I don't really want to work with this guy if he can't hold his line. Lots of cars, I have a feeling, are about to come down into the pits. No, okay, maybe not from the lead pack. But some cars behind them are. Toby Butler and Sheila Ryber are coming into the pits, so hopefully for them, they'll be able to work with each other once they come back out.
Whoa, and I was just watching Vernon Marheim, who got his left wheels down to the yellow line and just got a little squirrely for a moment, but he kept it together. This guy has been doing quite well to keep him up in the midst of this pack. He's been a little anonymous, except for maybe being a part of a tandem here or there. But he's currently sitting in third, and he's not making a whole lot of waves. He's just kind of hanging around in this pack and keeping himself in contention.
Yeah, but like I say, let's watch him down the backstretch here. Oh, sorry, this is the front stretch. Oh, and there's one car coming into the pits back. Lawrence Stanton. He must have been speeding coming into the pits because he was still with the lead back when he came down pit road. Unfortunately, that may throw him out of the race if he has to do a drive-through penalty or something. And one thing that the drivers that aren't part of this lead pack are going to have to begin worrying about is that if this thing stays green, because they're beginning to spread out, and they don't get a drafting partner, they could fall multiple laps down, and that could easily take them out of it. As a matter of fact, the driver in 30 seconds is 6 laps down, so really, we're losing cars every now and again. Without mentioning it, they're just phasing out of this race, Kevin.
Yeah, and I'm hearing radio chatter right now as guys are trying to figure out each other's fuel strategies and figure out who they can work with to set up a partnership, go into pit lane, get their service done, and come back out. But yeah, guys are just falling off real quickly. We can see we just lapped Kyle Clements right now, who's been one of our big leaders. I think he's led the third most number of laps in this race so far, and he's a lap down. There's a lot of people falling off really fast here, Sam.
Could you tell us a couple of the partnerships you were talking about, Kevin?
I could, but I already forgot the names, I'm sorry to say.
That's alright. Anyhow, the field coming out of turn 4 this time, by. Let's see if any of them decide to pit. No. They stay. Oh, no, wait. We got one car, Ryan Otis at the back of the pack coming into the pits. Ray Fournier also coming in that Bowin number 26 car. So they're certainly going to think about working with each other. And Scott Hutchinson also, who I thought was out of a race earlier. He's still on the lead lap, running in the top 10. He's coming down to the pits as well as they complete lap 90.
Yeah, and there's with all these guys coming in, I was keeping an eye on a few of them. There were guys like Toby Butler, who unfortunately missed his pit. Now, we talked about that a little bit earlier under caution, and with nobody else around him pitting, it wasn't a big deal. But now when he's pitting on green flag racing, that is a whole lot of the track that you are losing compared to guys that are still moving if you miss your pit stall.
And Sam brought it up earlier when Lawrence Stanton tried to pit under green and he was in that pack. Unfortunately, he came across the timing cones at about 135 miles an hour, which is about 90 miles an hour too fast over the speed limit. So he served that penalty. So there's a whole lot to worry about when you're trying to come into pit lane under green flag conditions.
It certainly does show another obstacle in there. And watching the lead pack working their way down the backstretch once again, seeing if any of them come in this time by.
Yeah, and I'm watching Kyle Clements, who we mentioned is currently a lap down. In fact, the first car that's a lap down, but he's already got his pit stop out of the way. What he's really got to hope for is that if we have a caution, that it lands at the right time, because he's going to want his lap back and not have it happen right when he needs to do his next stop, or else he is going to just be a bit out of luck.
Yeah, and while all this is going on, I want to pay attention to the pack coming through the trioval right now, led by Mike Willett. These guys are still on the lead lap and haven't pitted yet, and Mike Willett and Dan Stussy are still on the lead lap, but have lost the lead draft. And I have a feeling now, I'm hearing a lot of radio chatter that a lot of these cars from the lead pack are coming in this lap. Here they come. Troy Anderson is in. Vernon Markheim is in. Richard Wedstead is in. Ryan Mastella is in. And Kayleen Hoy was way too hot coming in pit road. Misses the commitment cones. Hopefully she's still going to be able to serve her stop. But honestly, she's already a couple of laps down anyway. But very nice by those guys to not run over each other on pit entry.
Yeah, now we get to see who is really efficient at these oval pit stops, as guys have cycled in and got their cars slowed down. See who can get in and out at the fastest. And I'm looking, Troy Anderson is getting his car up to speed, but he's got Vernon Marheim coming up behind him, has the momentum, but it's not enough. Those two are going to exit first, and I wouldn't doubt to see them start to get a tandem going.
And they took 2 tires, and the big loser is Richard Wedstead, who I was about to say was taking 4 tires, but unfortunately I think he's taken more than that. He has been in pit road for a good about 20 seconds now, and he has certainly lost any chance of keeping up with the lead pack as he finally loses his, leaves his pit stall after a 36-second pit stop, Kevin.
Yeah, that was a long stop, and I'm not sure what that was. Yeah, I'm with you, Samuel. There's something a little bizarre. Maybe you got a speeding penalty?
Maybe, but I think that would result in a drive-through. Meanwhile, there was a crash in turns 3 and 4, no caution. Chris Beck basically got loose on the apron, got his car sideways, put it up in the wall. The pack behind him was able to avoid him, but Chris Beck was smoking. He is entering his pit stall right now, already a lap down. Hopefully for him, I think one of you, Kevin or Joe, pulled him as a pick. He'll be able to get his free repair and get back in this race, but certainly not going to help his chances.
Well, Samuel, I'm not entirely sure if he still has a free repair left. He definitely used one of them up for a big wreck, and he was in the pack a little bit, so if he'd had some pump drafting going on earlier, he may have used that second free repair earlier, and Chris Beck has just exited. So I think, yep, that he had used up all his free cars. He is done.
Very unfortunate for him. Meanwhile, the other lead car that we've been paying attention to, who hasn't been leading today, is Brian Pager, who is actually leading this race right now, but just pulled into his pit stall in the Fox Sports 1 car, and I believe that is going to give the lead... Am I correct in that? No, Troy Anderson and Virgon Markheim are leading this race as they have that tandem going. They have 4 seconds over the 3rd place car right now, Joe.
Yeah, they've definitely pulled a little bit of a trick on the rest of these guys, and they seem to be doing pretty well as Vernon gets right up on the bumper of Anderson and just pushes that car along down the back straightaway before he backs off into turn 3. Kyle Clements, who we had said was a lap down but a little bit off strategy, has now worked himself back up into 4th, and he is in the midst of this pack here behind them, which is led by a lap car of Matthew Sabowski. But they've got Clements and Marsteller and Capon all together in that little second group there, and if they work together they might be able to run these guys down, but they've really got to focus on teaming up here and not battling it out to try and catch these lead 2 cars.
Yeah, and something Vernon is going to have to be concerned with is how hot he lets that engine get riding behind Troy Anderson. They may have to switch to make this tandem last for more than 10 laps, although Vernon poking his nose out right now trying to get air. But the problem is, while Vernon isn't drafting with Troy, and while he's trying to get cool air to that radiator, that means that this pack behind him is actually catching them down. The 2 lead cars ran 45.3s that lap. The pack behind them ran a 45.0, so they are slowly but surely reeling their way back up to the lead, Kevin.
They are, and I'm not sure if we really talked about that, but that is Matthew Sabowski, who is in 29th place right now, pulling the the 3rd place car of Kyle Clements. So that's a little peculiar to me. I think that I would have expected Clements to want to lead that, but it seems to be working pretty well for them right now. As you said, they are definitely faster right now than the lead pair, and it looks like it may even be as much as 3 miles an hour on the back straight, Samuel.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, it's going to be even more drastic now because the top 2 cars just switched around. Vernon Markheim now takes the lead from Troy Anderson so that his engine didn't get too hot, but consequently they lost 0.6 of a second out on that second pack. And like we say, Kyle Clemens is the actual leader as far as that second pack goes, although he isn't up front in it, if you catch my drift. But now we're also going to run into seeing how Vernon Markheim does with pump drafting, considering he seems to have a bit of difficulty driving in a straight line down the backstretch. But right now it doesn't seem to be bugging Troy Anderson too much, and why should it? They're running 1st and 2nd.
Well, and Samuel, I gotta say, it looks like maybe it worked out a little better because this time both the lead pack and the second pack had about the same trap speed on the back straight. So it looks like Markheim might be pulling Anderson a little better than Anderson was pulling Markheim.
Yeah, but it's still 0.3 of a second the closing rate to Kyle Clemens. And let's not forget that as soon as Matthew Sabowski gets within about a second of that tandem, they're going to get an extended draft from those guys. I have a feeling that time is running down. Anyway, cross flags will be at the grandstands as we come out of turn 4 this time. They're about to complete lap 100 and the halfway mark. First 50 laps filled with caution, second set of 50 laps pretty much all green as Vernon Markheim leads here at the halfway mark at Daytona, Joe.
Yeah, Vernon doing a very good job. Same thing with Troy getting themselves up there. But you have to wonder if there's a little bit of a bug in the ear of Mr. Anderson as he can hear the sound of inevitability barreling down. And funnily enough, it sounds just like a train.
And it is a freight train and it is coming at 202 miles an hour. Vernon Markheim leads here as they just completed the halfway mark at Daytona International Speedway. Troy Anderson second, Carl Clemens third, Brian Marstella fourth and Rod Flagg in fifth. Ryan Otis in sixth place, Gary Nichols in seventh, George Socha in eighth, Jimbo Pfeiffer riding out in ninth, Ray Fournier about 15 seconds back in 10th, Kevin.
Yeah, and I'm watching this this freight train that we were talking about. This is a great little group of guys. We've seen them running pretty well together earlier today, and it looks like they've decided at least two of them, that would be Brian Marsteller and Kyle Clemens, have decided they need to go around Saboski.
Crash! Gary Nichols is in it. George Socha is in it on the brakes. Mark Rediker is in it. They're still wrecking, but I'll give a shout out to Mark Rediker for not making that bigger late in the race. Tim Ryber stopped in the middle of the track and William Fletcher just ran into him even after the wreck had finished. About 10 cars involved in this one.
Yeah, looking at the replay, it looks like Nichols was the one that kicked that one off. He got into the side of another car. I couldn't quite see who that was. And they came down into the tri-oval. Unfortunately, they hit each other again. And then they've got all these other cars barreling down on them. They couldn't get it slowed down in time. The most bizarre one, though, I have to say, is I see about 3 or 4 cars, and there was someone going very slow, a white car, and he seemed like a very easy target to miss, but all 3 cars pretty much smacked into the back of him at once.
Yeah, that was Tim Ryber stopped in the middle of the track. I guess he was going to try and get a tow, thought the wreck was over. Oh no, he blew up. That's what happened, Joe. After the wreck, he blew up, so he couldn't move off the track, and that's why the rest of the cars got into the back of him. So, sorry, Tim, I thought you made a mistake, but no, he couldn't do anything about it.
I'm not sure if that one counts as our big one, since we've had another one earlier on, so I guess we've had 2 big ones so far. Looks like I think we've had the most cars collected in that one, actually. So we've got 2 out of the way. I don't know, Sam, you think we're going to run into any more?
Yeah, I'm just watching one driver we've mentioned a few times in this broadcast that was also involved in that incident was Sheila Ryber. Yeah, Sheila and Tim actually both made contact in that wreck, so that was very unfortunate for the Ryber duo there. I think there's more wrecks to come, and unfortunately I think they're going to be a little bit bigger. Vernon Markheim leads the field down pit road, but we're going to take a break to save our voices and get our breaths back after the first half of the race is complete here at Daytona. back at Daytona International Speedway, working lap 103 under caution, 105 under caution here. Ryan Otis is your leader. He did not pit under the latest caution, so we'll have to see how that works out for him. And despite the fact that we're 95 laps away from the end, Joe, I think these drivers are going to have to begin thinking about when they want to make their stops, because they can get to the end on about 2 more stops right now.
Yeah, when we talk about these guys counting backwards and thinking about their number of stops, it's because you by this point have got a feel for what your mileage is, especially in traffic. So you just have to think, how many laps are left and how many laps can I go? So if you can make 30 laps on a tank of fuel, you think 200 minus 30, that's 170, and then minus 30 more, and you can start to plan out your stops, because theoretically you want to be running on fumes at the very end. You don't want to be stopping close to the end in case there is a caution. You'd rather get that track position, get up to the front, especially in the way that it's going to be so chaotic toward the end, Kevin.
Yeah, you said, I'm sorry, I've just been trying to make out the chatter going on amongst the admins, race control right now a bit, so they're talking a lot with a bunch of the drivers, and still just not quite entirely sure what's going on, but a couple of people seem to be upset about something. I'm not sure what it is. I'm going to try and figure that out if I can.
I can tell you, Kevin, it's Matthew Sabowski was the first car behind the pace car, and he didn't get that. He could take a wave around because he didn't pit under the caution. He was in front of all the lead lap cars. He could take a wave around, and I think Vernon Markheim was saying, hey, Matthew, you're in my position behind the pace car. Take a wave around, buddy. You gotta make a lap back up, which was very good for Sabowski. He was 2 laps down. He's now only 1 lap down. Although, because of that long green flag run and everything going on, there's only 19 cars left on the lead lap, Kevin.
19 cars, and we just heard a big behave yourself from race control, so I think they're definitely under orders right now.
Yep, so Ryan Otis in that grey and red number 80 unsponsored car on the low line will be leading them to the restart here. Vernon Markheim in that red car on the high side. We're not quite sure if they're all going to remember how to do restarts, considering it's been about 50 or 60 laps since they've had one. The pace car is pulling off, and they're going to go here under control of Ryan Otis. We're going to sit back and let you listen to the sounds of Daytona International Speedway as we get ready to crank it up. Single file in the front pack, and there's a big gap in the second pack where they're all double file, Kevin, but that's probably got a lot to do with Richard Wedstone missing the front clip on this car.
Yeah, he's definitely got to be having a lot of drag going on like that with the whole front end of the car completely exposed. And he was on the radio encouraging other drivers to go around him on the high side. He knows he's a wounded duck out there, and there's a lot of chatter going on for this shortly after a restart, I think, and a lot of guys kind of reminding each other, hey, there's still 90 laps to go. We have to stay clean.
Yeah, but still 90 laps to go. You gotta start thinking about those pit stops as we watch the last tail end cars here beginning to make their way around Richard. And this race has a complete different look to it than what it did about 15 laps ago. 15 laps ago, we were having difficulty in the booth keeping up with who's who because there were cars strung all around the track. Now, really, we've got two major packs with 18, 17 cars left on the lead lap, and then some cars just trailing a lap down or two, trying to get back in the sim when the caution waves go.
Yeah, and you know who I was watching was Kyle Clements, who started up towards the front of that lead pack there and dropped all the way back. Once again, the high line didn't quite seem to work for him, so he is currently sitting down in 6th, but consolidated that position right behind Jimbo Pfeiffer.
Ryan Otis leading the field. Vernon Margine still running there in 2nd with Troy Anderson. He's been working with him all day. Rod Flagg has been a bit of a dark horse. I don't think he's actually led today. Jimbo Pfeiffer in 5th. Kyle Clemens has came back to 6th. Lawrence Stanton still riding in 7th. Mickey Edmondson 8th. Ryan Thomas 9th. And Joshua Gardiner 10th. That's our lead pack, Kevin.
And we are on board right now with Kyle Clements. As you can see, he's in the middle of that lead pack and pulling a nice little draft right there on Jimbo Pfeiffer in that orange and blue number 3 car. And looks like these guys are in the groove right now to me. It looks like they're staying nice and tight, although I'm seeing Troy Anderson pulled a little bit on the outside there in the banking, maybe to get some cool air. And I think maybe he's running hot. He keeps poking his nose out, Samuel.
Yeah, certainly something you got to do. I have been in races here this week where cars have blown up simply by not getting enough air to that radiator. And I've got to admit, although we've seen tandeming going on as far as cars running close, one behind each other, we haven't seen a heck of a lot of bump drafting in this race, or pushing around the track. I have a feeling that's going to change as we've got about 87 laps left to go. Purple car going below the apron there, that was Lawrence Stanton, but gets back up on the track. And you've got the feel for Richard Wedstead. He's still on the lead lap, still making it out in 18th place. He's got to be hoping for caution so he can come back down pit road and get that front end repaired, Joe.
Yeah, currently right now I'm watching Ryan Toma and Mickey Edmondson. Those two guys had hooked up. They were in a nice little tandem there for a bit. They were trying to make progress. They were starting to, but now they've got Troy Anderson up in front of them. So we got 4 cars because right at the back, there's also Joshua Gardner. These guys are starting to get a train going. They're working together. They're trying to make that high side start to work again. Slowly but surely, I think we could see a repeat of what we saw a little bit earlier of a group of guys working together and freight training on by.
Yes, and that's the number 22 car of Troy Anderson leading that pack. And number 20... Oh, and look at Vernon Markheim. He got on the bottom and got loose, and now they're going to go 3 wide. As they try and go by Vernon, you're not meant to pass below the apron. But I think as far as wreck avoidance goes, you can certainly do that. Very nice driving by everybody to go by Vernon. And although I've been highly critical of Vernon today for not maintaining his line, that's really been the first time he's made a mistake today, Joe, and that's pushed him back in the pack a bit.
Well, thankfully, he's going to have plenty of opportunity. He's still holding on to the tail end here. He can still make up time for that mistake. If you were thinking of going for a peanut butter and butter sandwich, now is definitely not the time because things are very much in flux as guys are trying to sort themselves out. Mistakes are being made. The pressure is obviously on.
And I think we should point out that that has really helped that second pack leading with Mike Willett, Craig Capon, and Ray Fournier. It seems like they've really closed up about a half second after Vernon had that minor mistake.
This shows you how if you just stay on the lead lap or close to just 1 lap down, you can certainly get back in the race. Because Craig Capon, we thought he was dead meat earlier, being a lap down, riding on his own, but he was able to hook up with the lead pack, get his lap back somehow, and we've got a battle for the lead, guys. Troy Anderson just went from 6th to 1st in 1 lap.
Yeah, he has absolutely made that high side work. Whoa, Mickey goes way up all the way into the wall. Just a glancing blow, though, so it seems like he's still okay. but these guys are very much hooked up, and Ryan Otis is under threat, although as far as we know, I believe he is off strategy at the moment. Is that correct?
Yes, but I mean, we'll have to wait and see about that, because if he only has to make 2 more pit stops, he could be on the same pit strategy.
We're hearing there's a wreck.
There is a yellow flag is out.
Big crash in turn 3. Brian Mostella is in it. Jeff Graham is in it. Scott Hutchinson is in it. And more. Ray Fournier. Kayleen Hoy, who was only 2 laps down despite all her troubles today.
Well, unfortunately for her, it looks like she's the one that kicked that off. She just got a little bit loose and clipped another car, and it was just, there was a whole pack around them. There was nothing they could do, and Kayleen Hoy, I believe, was the one involved. So it looks like everybody was just an unfortunate victim in this one of one car getting loose, and there was just a chain reaction.
And a very good job by the 3rd pack in line there to avoid hitting them. Whoa, I'm watching the lead pack cars getting checked up for the pace car right now, almost running into each other. It seems, Kevin, as this race goes on, these drivers gaining a little bit more experience. They're also getting better at stuff like wreck avoidance.
Yeah, they definitely have. Mark Redeker did a fantastic job this last time, I think, avoiding all the damage. There was a lot of wrecked cars and spinning cars in front of him, so he definitely was not doing the old Days of Thunder routine, and he kept his car nice and clean. But, you know, Sammy, one thing we haven't really talked about is it's a fast track out there. I think it is a very dry weather out there, so these cars are making a lot of power, and I'm seeing Rod Flag and Ryan Otis pulling into pit lane right now, Samuel.
Yes, and now begins the questioning. It's lap 117. With enough caution laps, you might be able to make it on 1 more stop. Who knows? This could be a very clever decision by all these cars in the pits right now. Ryan Otis, 2 left tires, and he's down and away. I'm pretty sure he's going to be the first car off pit road.
No, Flag has beaten him. So Rod Flag, he's on that air raid offensive right now, and he's in front of... oh, no, Ryan Otis is going around him.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see who gets to the cone first. One driver who's going to benefit a lot, who was able to get through this caution, thanks to the fact that he couldn't keep up with the fact at all, is Richard Wedstead, who is now parked sideways in his pit still. He'll be getting the front end of that car repaired. He's still on the lead lap, may still be able to get back in this race. One driver who won't is Kayleen Hoy. She's made the announcement and she's pretty much done for this race.
Yeah, Kayleen had about as adventurous a Daytona 500 as I think you can have. Up at the front of the field, down in the back of the field, in wrecks, out of wrecks. That was a lot of stuff to talk about in her race.
I see about 4 cars down pit road right now with their front clips missing, Joe. Dan Stussy, Jeff Graham, Brian Mostella, and Richard Wedstead actually got a front clip now on his car. So certainly this race beginning to pay its toll.
Yeah, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier on in the race, with these guys needing to hold on to their free cars, their spare cars, and try to keep out of trouble, keep the damage away. Now that they've run out, when you've got a missing front, you are severely hampered around here. You have simply no hope of trying to be up at the front. So you're just going to keep dropping back and losing laps as time goes on. And at this point, it's survival mode, and they're probably more thinking about trying to salvage some points instead of actually doing anything with a podium or a win.
Remember, the top 15 cars get points, and I mean, the drivers in about 26 on back are 3 laps down. So if you're still on the lead lap, you have over half a shot really to score points here today. And as Joe just mentioned, that's something that's certainly on these drivers' minds. Troy Anderson, Mickey Edmondson, Jimbo Pfeiffer, Joshua Gardiner, and Brian Pager stayed out. There are your top 5 right now, Kevin.
No, I'm showing Brian Pager is in pit lane right now, Samuel.
Well, until he came down in the pits, he was in the top 5. Well, Troy Anderson's leading, let's put it that way. And then we got Mickey Edmondson, Jimbo Pfeiffer, and Joshua Gardiner stayed out. So I believe that means everyone 5th on back is going to be able to make it maybe on 1 more stop, which could certainly be bad news for those top 4 cars, Joe.
And Samuel, we've kind of been touching on the championship points, but we haven't really talked about that. So this, remember, Northwest Majors is a 12 race series. It's 6 road races and 6 oval races, and the winner of the championship actually gets a trophy. It's called, they're going to call it the Bigfoot Trophy. So this whole series, they're kind of calling it the Hunt for Bigfoot. Remember?
Yeah, and we're not quite sure how the points are going to work here, but it looks like you're getting double points for winning this race just because there's so many cars in it. So this is certainly a race that these drivers are going to want to win. Now, just because you don't see some drivers like Stephen Ellis, who won the opening round overall last week, just because you don't see some of those guys here doesn't mean that they're completely out of the championship. Because like a regular iRacing season, this is a 12 race championship and 4 of those races are going to be drop weeks. But I'm certain that if you finish in about the top 10 here, Joe, that's going to be a finish that you're going to walk out with a smile on your face.
Oh yeah, you're getting a sense for how difficult it is to try and finish in the top 10 around here. Even with these 2 spare cars, guys are having plenty of trouble, and it's the ones that have learned a few tricks along the way and know their way around these oval cars and how to work in a pack that are consistently up front. We've seen a lot of these names up in the top 10 for the entire day pretty much. Guys like Troy Anderson, Mickey Edmondson, Jimbo Pfeiffer, Kyle Clements, Vernon Marheim. Those guys have kept out of trouble, kept their nose clean, and have got their kind of their thumb on the pulse of what the strategy needs to be. These are the guys that are going to be able to take advantage of some very hard-earned points. And we'll probably see that throughout the series with such a variety of different styles of racing that are required. The guys that understand the nuances of each of them are really the ones that are going to come out to the front.
Yeah, and now is when you begin to congratulate the drivers like Brian Pager, who has just been hanging out at the back all day. He is currently riding 15th of 17 cars on the lead lap in pretty much a car that hasn't had a scratch on it all race. He's still got, let's see about this, he's still got 80 laps left to go. He may only have to make one more pit stop. The only problem I foresee with Page's strategy right now is that when he gets up front, he hasn't had any experience with racing with these cars up front. He may not know which cars can hold their line, which cars can't. He may not even know that the cars on the high line have actually been able to make that high line work. So these are all key little tricks to the race that Brian's been missing out of that may hurt him when it comes down to the final 5 laps, Kevin.
Yeah, it looks like lights are off on the pace car. Drivers are lined up mostly 2 by 2, although there was a brief three wide for a moment further back in the pack. So it looks like we're about to go green, Samuel.
And that's something that we have not seen. 3 wide is something that we have not seen pretty much today. Anyhow, pace car is off, field is in control of Troy Anderson, and we ride on board Mickey Edmondson. Look at the bad restart he gets, and that's going to check up the outside line, and although he's coming back here now, but he has no drafting partner, or does he? Because Joshua Gardner thought about going down low, but stays up high, so no, and now he goes down low. So yeah, Mickey Edmondson going to fall back a bit, I think, on the high line here, Joe.
Yeah, and once again, we've been seeing that high line just not really the place to go at the start of these restarts. Although Mickey is trying to make it work. He's holding on to the side of Troy. Let's see if he can do it through this next 3 and 4 corners. Because now he's got, I believe that's Vernon behind him. And I'm sorry, that's I've totally lost my train of thought there. But anyways, they're trying to make it work up on that high side. They're getting the momentum back together. It's a bit of a yo-yo effect. You can't really tell if it's going to work at first or not. Eventually, once you get hooked up, they tend to try and get that momentum going. But you need that partner. That's really the important part of that.
A lot of the drivers who were in the last wreck have been retiring since green flag flew again. Dan Stussy, Scott Hutchinson, all out of this race. Top 3 car breakaway a little bit. Mickey Edmondson and Joshua Gardner running side by side for 3rd. Joshua Gardner was down there in about 6th about a lap ago. He's starting to make a slow line work for him, Kevin.
He is. That high line is not working. They are getting dropped by the inside line right there.
As they come around to complete lap 122, and let's not forget that these drivers who pitted may want there to be a couple more cautions so they can make it to the end of one more stop. But right now, very clean side-by-side racing.
Yeah, and that high line was working so poorly for Rod Flagg in that grade 23 Washington State Cougars car that he decided he had had enough of that. He pulled into the low line, and sure enough, he's gone right around Mickey Edmondson.
Yeah, those drivers are falling back to about 7th and 8th position right now and getting a little bit side by side there. Well, they were about 4th and 5th last time around. Ray Fournier now out of the race. But a breakaway, like I say, at the front of the pack as they actually come up to put a lap on the lap car of Brian Barnes right now. This could change things up a little bit.
Yeah, those cars on the high side need to keep their heads up because they've got some interesting lap traffic coming up their way, as you mentioned with Barnes, just kind of holding up on that high side. He's doing well to try and stay out of the way. Now they're on the back stretch. This is really where he needs to let them on by because everybody can kind of get through there. They might go 3 wide through turn 3 here. It's going to be touch and go.
And there was almost physical touch here. In fact, there is physical touch as Brian Barnes gets up in the wall but gets through that. And credit where credit's due, Brian Barnes is not 8 laps down because of lack of performance. He has been in and out on the connection all day, but it's still holding on strong, trying to finish this race. Currently riding in, as they go 3 wide again, currently riding in 28th position.
And I would like to point out with Brian Barnes that he was actually the Northwest Club's most valuable driver in the last World Cup round. He scored the most points across the 6 races out of anybody in the Northwest Club. So he had a fantastic day running both road courses and oval courses. So we know he can be a solid driver. Just unfortunate today with all these internet problems he's having.
Yeah, certainly. Meanwhile, the outside line beginning to come back a little bit with Mickey Edmondson, thanks, I guess, partially to the lap car, but Vernon Margine got loose over in turns 3 and 4 there, and they begin to fall out again. Troy Anderson puts another lap on the board with Mr. Oval Hater himself, the number 3 car of Jimbo Fife in 2nd place, right on his tail, Joe.
And I'm going to jump in. William Fletcher got loose and got in the way of Sheila Reiber, and Reiber made contact. They both have some pretty heavy damage on their cars.
And to credit to Jimbo Pfeiffer, he didn't necessarily say that he hates ovals. He just thought that they were easy. And he's honestly making it look a little easy during this race because he's been up front for quite a while, giving Troy Anderson a bit of a push for that lead. But staying in line, these lead 3 haven't been able to break away. They look like they might have it, but Joshua Gardner just kind of holding on to the back of them and not able to help them out, it seems.
Yep, and another lap on the book, and yeah, like I say, that high line beginning to fall back again. They're going to have to pick up a couple more cars up there before they can do anything with it. And I'm beginning to wonder if they stay green for about another 10, 15, 20 more laps, we might start to see those top 4 cars pit, and that could change everything up.
Well, things are always constantly changing here at Daytona with NASCAR races. You can never count on 2 laps being quite the same, and especially not here today as they continue to put laps down. They're on lap 127 right now. They're getting, I think they're right about in the range of where they need to start looking at those pit stops. Is that correct, Sam?
Yes, they are, and like I say, the cars that pitted under the last portion are going to have to start thinking, I mean, there's not really a whole lot of ways you can save fuel up here other than draft the cars in front of you. So that's certainly not going to work to Troy Anderson's advantage right now. But everyone behind him has a draft, which could extend their fuel window a couple extra laps, Kevin.
Yes, sir, it can. And, you know, I'm watching that outside line, and well, it kind of they keep moving forward and dropping back, moving forward and dropping back. So it's fascinating for me. Just wondering just when it's going to kick in, if it's going to kick in. You know, I'm not sure if it's helping them right now to run on the outside line at this point.
Well, it's not helping them, but it's not hurting them. They seem to just be hanging out there as they work their way around now, lap 129. Jimbo Pfeiffer going to look underneath Troy Anderson. Troy Anderson is about to get free trained, and there's a new leader here at Daytona.
And I wonder, is this the first lap that Jimbo has led? Because we've seen him up there, but I don't think we've actually seen him in the lead. And it's a curious move by Troy Anderson. Did he get loose or what happened?
I don't know. It just looked like he decided he didn't want to lead. I can't make any sense of that, Samuel.
That could be a possibility. Maybe he could be trying to grab a draft. As a real Daytona 500 just finished up in real life. I will not spoil it for you right now, but the real Daytona 500 is over, so hopefully you should all keep your eyes affixed to this race for the last 70 laps as Jimbo Pfeiffer now, as you say, Kevin, for the first time leading this race. Joshua Gardner right on his rear bumper.
Indeed, Jimbo Pfeiffer, that first lap he has led, he's probably going to lead this second lap as well officially. Joshua Gardner looking pretty hot behind him. And we got to say that Gardner and Pfeiffer are very used to running with each other on road courses. I'm not sure how comfortable they are with each other on oval courses, but they're looking pretty comfortable right now. Gardner's taking a nice little position, just a little peeked out to make sure he's getting air into his radiator, cooled that engine down a little bit. And he and Pfeiffer are looking like they're going to try and make a move. Ryan Otis is a couple of car lengths behind him, about a car length behind them, and Otis just doesn't quite look as strong as Pfeiffer and Gardner do at this moment, I think.
He still could be playing the waiting game. Meanwhile, I've been keeping an eye on this battle for about 9th and 10th back here as Mickey Edmondson has finally filtered his way down low, but says, enough of that, I'm going to pass Craig Capon on the outside line here, use my friend Troy Anderson. We're going to try and get back up front, but yeah, Troy Anderson fell from the front to the back in a hurry, and you know, maybe that's intentional. We don't really know, but Jimbo Pfeiffer currently in the lead, far ahead of Troy Anderson right now. But still a lot of laps left to go. 69 laps left to go on the board as they cross the line. And Kyle Clemens and Rod Flagg round out the top 5, Joe.
You know, with Troy Anderson ducking away, you mentioned about him leading and how he was the one getting the worst gas mileage of all those guys up at the front. I wonder if that's exactly what he was thinking, decided, you know what, I've had enough of this. He's led quite a few laps of this race so far and probably was a bit aware that he was running out a little quicker than everybody else. So maybe he thought, we've got about less than 70 laps to go. Time to just tuck back, let everybody else do the work for me, and make the move when it's a little bit closer to the time.
And Joe, I'm gonna piggyback on that comment. Troy Anderson has led the most laps in this race. He's led 44. Person with the second most number of laps led is Sheila Ryber with 28. She's not in the race right now. So the lead pack, only Ryan Otis and Kyle Clemens have led more than 10 laps, and that's 13 and 19 respectively. So definitely, I think you're right there that Troy Anderson may be hurting a little bit on fuel.
The Rybers are out, guys. Sheila and Tim Ryber just left the race. Unfortunately, 2 less drivers in it. And that means we've got 23 cars left in the race, I believe. And one of them is Richard Wedstead, still with that big dent in the front of his number 98 Fastenal Ford. But he's still hanging out there on the lead lap. Next time they get a caution, he should be able to get the rest of that repaired. I wouldn't count him out of contention yet, Joe.
Yeah, if he's got that spare car, he can certainly make it happen. He's in the middle of a little pack here, and I think that's helping him out some to be able to hold on to the back of Ryan Toma, I believe that is. No, I'm sorry, that's George Soka, who he is tucked in behind. So that's kind of helping him keep a little bit of touch with these guys, but he definitely wouldn't be able to do it on his own, that's for sure.
Meanwhile, as we've been talking, the outside line has been making some progress with Mickey Edmondson, Troy Anderson going to give him a bump down at the end of the backstretch there. Not a very hard one, it could have been a lot harder. And as soon as we redirect the cameras to them, they begin falling back to about 5th or 6th here. So a very up and down game here. But we got a battle for the lead almost. Joshua Gardner thought about it, then realised that no one was going to go with him and fell back into the draft by Jimbo Pfeiffer as Kyle Clemens also thinking about going high. I think it's a bit early for these guys to start thinking about making moves to the lead, but they're going for it.
Yeah, you can see Clemens has taken that outside line, and now he's got Mickey Edmondson and Troy Anderson tucked in behind him. So maybe they're trying to make that work. Looks like Clemens is making it work at least by taking over the position in front of Otis. It looks like whoa!
Oh, Clemens is loose.
Clemens is down. Clemens, let's make contact.
And many cars involved in this run. Rod Flag is involved in it. Matthew Saboski wasn't even on the lead lap is involved in it. Gary Nichols, same story. And there's still cars flying through the wreck in that second pack. Fortunately, they're all able to avoid it, but I would have thought they would have slowed down a little bit more than that. Yeah, about 6 or 7 cars involved in that incident. Craig Capon also a lot of front-end damage on that low Chevrolet.
Yeah, looking at that replay, and I was actually watching it happen live. Kyle just started to lose it, and his car weaved down to the inside, and poor, I think that was Otis, who got hit but continued on, although his car looks like it's crabbing just slightly. Everybody else behind them, though, just sitting ducks for the slaughter.
Yeah, I'm going to confirm Ryan Otis has big damage on the rear of his car. I can see the fuel tank exposed to the wind, so he's definitely going to have to come in and get some repairs.
Kyle Clemens has owned up to the wreck, and I'm watching the replay. I'm counting about... I'm not even sure how many cars I should count in this wreck, because it just kept going.
Yeah, there was Kyle actually was the one stopped in the middle of the track. I mean, he did right to try and get the car slowed down, just get on the brakes. But unfortunately, stopping right in the middle of the banking doesn't really do anybody behind any service. And there was about 4 cars that had to suddenly weave high to try and avoid him. And I think a few of them made contact with each other in the meantime. But it looks like we got pit stops going, Sam.
Yeah, and Vernon Margheim is going to be one of them with smoke still pouring out the back of that number 33 red car. Now, these drivers can definitely make it to the end on one more stop. And as a matter of fact, the cars that pit under the last caution might be able to now as well, because of the fact that they've got a caution. And we'll wait to see, once these cars get serviced, who gets out of pit road first. A lot of cars have been taking 2 tyres all day, and it looks like the race is going to be won by Jimbo Pfeiffer.
Actually, no, there's Mickey Edmondson just ahead of him.
Well, I was wrong again.
It's okay, there's a lot going on out there. Mickey Edmondson with a lightning fast stop to sneak himself all the way from 4th up to 1st effectively, although some of the cars in front of them have not pitted, so we'll have to see how their strategy plays out, but good job on getting himself some track position.
1 car in front of him has not pitted, Joe. Most of those are lap cars, but Lauren Stanton is the only lead lap car that did not pit.
And boy, did that, we talk about thinning out the herd, that wreck certainly did that, and some very good drivers, some of the top drivers that I believe it took out. And unfortunately, it looks like Troy Anderson, who was leading the most laps up until now, I'm seeing him in the pits. I think he got collected in that.
Yeah, I believe he did. Vernon Margheim is definitely in the pits doing repairs. Troy Anderson, his car coming out looks pretty good. That does Ryan Thomas. Gary Nichols isn't on the lead lap. He has a lot of damage in pit road there. Carl Clemens, who triggered the wreck, has left the building.
And I'm going to confirm on Troy Anderson, he actually hit the wall slightly trying to avoid that wreck. So he didn't pick up any damage from other cars, just a little bit into the wall as he was lucky to avoid the spinning Kyle Clemens.
So I wonder if maybe he utilized his spare car to get back out there and not lose any time, because he seems to still be on the lead lap here. Certainly lost even more track position that he's going to have to make up.
I think, Joe, that he actually used up his spare car, all his spare cars already, because he is back in pit lane. So I think he's trying to get all the damage fixed right now and still stay on the lead lap.
Toby Butler is also in the pits. You see a lot of cars coming down pit road. A lot of them are lap down cars with damage. But Toby Butler and Troy Anderson are 2 of the lead lap cars that are in the pits, which will give them a bit more of an opening on their pit stop. But honestly, Kevin, I think their cars look good enough, but they should be able to keep up with the lead pack without too much difficulty.
Yeah, I'm looking at Troy Anderson's car, and it's just, to me, it looks like there's just a little bit of damage on the right side. Doesn't look like it's anything that should stop him, but this must be a case where he doesn't have a spotter to tell him that, hey, your car looks pretty good. Just go out there and get the track position, man.
Yeah, certainly, and So it looks like Lawrence Stanton's going to lead them to the green flag once we go green again, and Mickey Edmondson in second, beating Jimbo Fife off pit road. Joshua Gardner in fourth and Ryan Otis in fifth. Notice how these names are beginning to gain a little familiarity with us. They keep recurring again, Dre.
Yeah, although one we haven't talked about a whole lot being up towards the front, Mike Ouellette working himself up. I'm not sure if he was able to just simply dodge all that carnage from that last wreck and slot himself a little bit higher in the standings, but he's a guy that has been flying below the radar mostly up until now.
He has. Remember, he had that earlier incident and had to get a reset car, but definitely he's looking a lot stronger here in the oval side of the of iRacing than he does sometimes on the road racing side. We love it when he comes join us on the road racing, but he doesn't seem to like to join in as much as we'd like to have him around.
Now, was one car that I want to take a look at if we can get our cameras on is Lawrence Danton, who we mentioned is currently leading. But look at the back of his car. He's got some serious damage there. Oh, I wonder if he's going to be a bit of a sitting duck when the green flag comes back.
Potentially. I was reading in the iRacing forums before this race started. Lawrence Stanton in the number 13 car, who you kind of know is a bit new to oval racing just given by the fact he has a 13 on the car, not exactly the luckiest number to have on your car in oval racing. He was saying, he was kind of given the impression that he was kind of new to this super speedway drafting thing, and that he may do a bit of experimenting. So I don't really know what the cars behind him are going to think about that, but certainly he's proven to be quite good at holding his own in the draft so far today. So the experimentation seems to have paid off. Maybe he can try and keep that car out front for the last 60 laps and take home a W.
Well, I just want to comment a little bit on Lawrence Stanton. He is a proud American vet, and we're all proud of that. And you can see he's wearing those National Guard colors. And, you know, he recently rejoined iRacing after taking a break of, I think it was about 2 years or so. I used to run with him in a private league, and he's a solid driver. He's a great guy. And, you know, I'm really stoked to see him at the front of this field and having put a couple laps led on the race right now as we are looking at the lights coming off on the pace car, Samuel.
Yep, the lights are off and they're in turns 3 and 4 right now. We currently have 13 cars left on the lead lap and only one car, Rod Flag, a lap down. However, we still have the top 19 cars 2 laps down. So yes, it is starting to become a race of attrition. And if you can survive it, you can score points and maybe be a contender in this championship. That's certainly what these top guys are going to try and do. And if Jimbo Pfeiffer wins it, that'll be 2 wins in a row for him. He'll easily be leading points, and everyone will have to begin thinking about beating him when they go to Sebring. Anyhow, pace car coming off. Lawrence Stanton in control of the field, and he gets a bit of a jump on the start, but we've already talked about how that could turn out to be a bad thing if the cars behind get a run on him. Mickey Edmondson and the car in 4th place, Joshua Gardner, very close to each other. They may be able to make a run on that high line, Joe.
Yeah, they've certainly got the momentum, which is opposite of what we've seen most of this race. He's starting to gain on that outside line. Mickey Edmondson has been running it a bit throughout the race, so maybe he's got that experience. Same thing with Joshua Gardner behind him. In fact, he's teaming up, and they are just going to freight train on by.
And you can see Pfeiffer pull out behind and get behind Joshua Gardner. I think he definitely wants to run with Gardner today.
Everyone wants to run on that high line right now. Lawrence Stanton was first, and maybe it's like you said, Kevin, that damage on the back. Everyone sees that. They're like, oh, I don't really want to draft with him, and they're just leaving Lawrence Stanton in the dust right now as he gets very close to Jimbo Pfeiffer, and they almost caught the wreck there going through the tri-oval zone.
Yeah, he needs to keep his awareness up on these restarts here. Yeah, I think you're right that damage seems to have been holding him up there. Now Jimbo goes very high and is starting to lose a little bit of ground. They're side by side here. Maybe he can get a little bit of a run down the backstretch. That the lead tandem there, Mickey and Joshua, have moved to the bottom line. They've decided they've had enough, but now Jimbo has some help, and it looks like that is Ryan Otis who is bump drafting.
Oh, and a very big moment. I think it was Mike Louette back there sliding out in that AMPA number 86 car into the middle lane, but was able to save it. I noticed Mike Louette was blinking a little bit. I hope he's not having connection issues. Mickey Edmondson still leading as the top 2, break away from the pack a little bit, Kevin.
Yep, absolutely. They are running well. They are down on that low line. Joshua Gardner once again kind of peeking out a little bit, trying to keep that engine cool. So Gardner definitely looks like he is the guy to push somebody else to lead to the finish right now.
Yeah, and it may be giving his strength away a little bit too early now. Everyone's going to realise, we need to break those two cars up if we want to win, because Lawrence Stanton is in third. But honestly, there's a couple car lengths between him and the second place car. Not going to mean a whole lot right now, though, because the top two cars are detached. Cross the line, 58 laps left to go.
Now, there's a couple cars a little farther back in this pack that we should take a look at. Troy Anderson all the way up into 7th as now he starts to slot up to the high line. Maybe he'll decide better of it with those cars starting to drop back. Yeah, now he gets back in line. But he's made good of those repairs, and he is back into this lead pack as he's trying to work his way forward. The other one is Brian Pager is back into this in 9th. And then, of course, Craig Capon is on the lead lap. The car that we saw very early in the race go a lap down has worked his way back up to the lead pack.
Yes, certainly has been a race of redemption for many of these drivers. Meanwhile, though, I am feeling we're not done with cautions, because it's getting very dicey in about a battle for 6th here, with Lawrence Stanton falling back through the field as Troy Anderson bump drafting a lapped car on the high line there as they go by the outside of Joshua Gardner. Troy Anderson wants to try and retake this lead, although we see one car get up in the wall coming out of turn 2 there. That's Jimbo Pfeiffer, just found the wall.
Well, those cars are staying nice and low, and they're not giving each other very much room as they come down the backstretch here. Now they come into the turn, and a little bit of a weave from Gardner that causes Anderson to have to move up high, but no harm, no foul as they continue on. But this has left our leader, Edmondson, a bit high and dry as the momentum of Gardner has been ruined.
Yeah, and you gotta wonder who Troy's going to go with here. He goes with the 23, the lap car of Rod Flag, and Troy should take a lead. And of course, to Rod's advantage, this will put him back on the lead lap if he can stay in front of all the lead cars, because he is currently one lap down, and into the lead goes Troy Anderson on the backstretch. And Mickey Edmondson falls to 2nd. Joshua Gardner stays on the low line. That's Mark Rediker coming up high. He's been doing very smart driving today. Avoided a couple of big wrecks, and Rod Flag leads the pack, but Troy Anderson leads the race, Kevin.
Yeah, you said it. Rod Flag leads the pack. Troy Anderson leads the race, but looks like Mickey Edmondson doesn't want any of that. He pulls on the outside, gets a great slingshot through the tri-oval. May have actually technically led that lap, but took a little bit. Joshua Gardner finally pulls up to get a tandem going with Edmondson, and this is an interesting battle right here as the 4 of the top 5 cars in your screen are on the same lap, and the first car is not on the lead lap. That's got to be kind of a little bit frustrating, I think.
Yeah, well, you've got to play it to your strategy, but yeah, slingshot engaged, shake and bake, Mickey Edmondson and Joshua Gardner to the front of the field, and as soon as they say that, they may lose it, because they slid a little bit on that high line, which has proven to have very little grip throughout this race. And Troy Anderson gets side by side, but I don't think he's going to lead this lap. The high line is reforming again, and they must have been tied at the start-finish line there. No, they weren't. Troy Anderson was actually in the lead by 0.007 seconds, but this battle continues through turns 1 and 2. But honestly, Joe, I think this is a little bit too hard a racing with 53 laps left to go.
Yeah, they'll have to cool down, but you know, Troy Anderson, I think, is the really smart one in this group, hooking up with that lap
There's
car.
been a crash, guys. It hasn't brought out a caution, but David Browning and Randy Webster, who I believe, neither of them were on the lead lap, but they got together in turns 1 and 2, and they're going to have to limp back around to pit road.
Unfortunate to hear. But to my point of what I was saying, if Troy and Flag can start to get a little bit of a gap, if they can get up front and hold that, as long as he stays in tandem with Flag, it doesn't matter if he's in front of him or behind him, because Flag is a lap down. So Troy can just know that he's not going to have to fight with him for the win at the end. That's the smartest thing I've seen all day.
And you know, I'm wondering if Rod Flag has a brand new car from that incident. You know, got the free iRacing reset. He might have the cleanest, shapeliest car out there, and be the perfect choice to be leading the 2-car tandem. Samuel.
I can tell you right now, Joe, though, the race isn't going to finish with the pack looking like this as they go through a smoke cloud caused by one of the wrecked cars. You know, it certainly is helping Troy keep the lead right now, but I think he's going to have to try something else to try and win the race, and he may be doing that right now. He's abandoning Rob Flagg, going up to the high line, and that actually may give Mark Redeker the lead as he comes down on the low line. Troy tries to get back in the low line, but too late. But it doesn't matter anyway, because that high line's coming into play. Troy's going to get, Mark's going to get bogged down by the lap car, is going to lose a couple of spots, and look at that number 7 car on the high line. Brian Pager is now in this race.
After having the pole and dropping away from it before the start, Brian Pager finally back into this. Mickey Edmondson was trying to give a push to Troy up on the high side, and Troy is going to continue to lead. But I wonder if he decided that he thought Mickey was just a little bit faster and maybe he'd be just a little bit better of a partner. But I don't know. I still would have stuck with that lap car if I was Troy, knowing that I would not have to fight him for that win if I could stick with him all the way to the end.
Yeah, but I don't think this thing's going to stay green all the way to the end, especially with the too wide racing we see right now. It's just being on that high line has caused trouble today. In fact, in a couple of instances, being on the low line has caused trouble. They're coming to 50 laps left to go. One more pit stop for all of these drivers. Troy Anderson leads the field, 14 cars on the lead lap, but I believe that's going to start changing soon as they're about to start lapping some cars.
Yeah, that could certainly cause some trouble because they're not as single file as they were earlier in the race. And it looks like one of those lap cars, unfortunately, is Jimbo Pfeiffer.
Yeah, he put it in the wall a couple of laps after the restart and lost the lead draft. And but you know what? If he goes a lap down, he's going to want Rod Flagg to get back up to the lead because only one of them can get the lucky dog, and so one of them's going to have to get the wave around some other way. But those two drivers are going to start battling to be the first car lap down, so you get the only lucky dog if there's only one caution left. However, I think if they avoid incident, we'll see them both on the lead lap before the end of this race, because it's really getting dicey at about 5th, 6th place there. In fact, even for the lead, Mickey Edmondson was thinking about trying to go a high line there, Kevin, but didn't, as here comes Brian Pager.
Indeed, here comes Brian Pager, lead car on that high line, but it's not really working for him at the moment, and there's a battle for the lead. Looks like Mickey Edmondson is looking to the outside of Troy Anderson. Not sure if he got enough slingshot to make it work. He's about a half car length in front of Troy Anderson, looking pretty good. Will he get in front of Troy for the onto the tri-oval?
It's going to be very close to tell. There's no lap traffic yet, so it's all between these guys, and Rod Flagg just trying to stay out of it. Troy Anderson in front right now. If the race had ended after 152 laps, Troy Anderson would have won it by less than 200ths of a second, but that's not the case. Mickey Edmondson getting a push from Brian Pager up on the high side, and they may end up leading lap 153, Joe. Although here comes Troy Anderson on the low line again.
Yeah, these guys are really fighting hard, as you mentioned earlier, with quite a few laps to go. It's interesting to see who is really, more comfortable up front. Mickey Edmondson seems to fight his way forward. Troy Anderson always seems to try and fight his way forward. So maybe these guys prefer to lead rather than to follow.
Maybe, and one driver has not been able to lead today, but we know he's very fast as Brian Pager, and I may even put my money that he may be leading this race the next time by. We're going to have to wait and see who's the first to go down low. Does any of them go down low? Mickey Edmondson does, but Brian Pager doesn't want to follow him. He wants to be a leader. He's now leading that high line. He wants Toby Butler, who's been involved in his fair share of incidents in that. Oh, and look at this though. Mickey Edmondson has came up to cut Brian Pager off. Brian's going to give him a little bump, or is he going to go down low? No, he just sets into second right now. And Toby Butler is riding down there on the low line in third as they go by the damaged car of Gary Nichols, who's getting very loose there on the apron. But they all get by cleanly, and it looks like Brian Pager is going to lead lap 154, Kevin.
He does, and that is only his third lap led technically, but he is now in the preferred low line spot at the front of the field and looking pretty good.
Looking very good, and there was just so much going on there last lap. I couldn't quite keep up with it all, I suppose. But hey, Ryan Payton's in the lead. Toby Butler's in second. And where did Mickey Edmondson go? He has fallen all the way back to fifth after crossing the line in second place last time by. And they're riding 2 by 2 still from about 6 on back. I would much prefer to be in this lead pack where they're single file, Joe.
Yeah, there's a lot less action going on now that they've slipped one by one behind each other. I think these guys have started, hopefully, to wise up. Nope, I spoke too soon. Troy Anderson decides he wants a little bit more of this action, tries to go up high, but there's nobody going with him, so he slides back into line.
Yep, and well, they're getting double file here again, though, fourth place. Joshua Gardiner, Mickey Edmondson, the Joshua Gardiner in the 131 on the low side, Mickey Edmondson in the number 12 on the high side, and he's going to lose out because he's got no drafting partner, puts it in the wall, and he's going to lose a lot of spots, basically making the same mistake as Jimbo Pfeiffer, but I don't think it'll be as costly for him as it was for Jimbo because he's still got cars, he can still fall into the draft there. In fact, he'll probably fall in front of Richard Wedstead, who has been in that beat-up Ford up into 8th place, Kevin.
Boy, yeah, and he just got a nice solid push from Lawrence Stanton. I thought that for sure that was going to be a heavy contact, but they got away with that one for sure. And Mike Willett just hanging out behind them. He's looking, I think, kind of a little crafty. He's sitting there in 10th overall right now.
Every single lead lap car is in this lead pack. That's 12 of them. Brian Pager through Craig Cabon in 12th as a couple of cars running up out of high. They're beginning to get spread out a little bit back there, Joe. I have a feeling they don't want to lose this lead pack though because the field is very thinned out and the chances of a caution happening may be a little bit reduced right now.
Yeah, I mean, if there's going to be a caution, it's more likely to come in the final few laps, which is when they don't want it to happen, unless it really just simply takes out everybody in front of them, which isn't unheard of, but I really wouldn't be banking on such an occurrence.
I believe it was the nationwide race at Daytona in 2012, where the car in 11th place in turn 3 on the final lap ended up winning the race because 10 cars in front of him wrecked. Hopefully we don't hope for a repeat of that. If we use my measuring stick of 2 laps down and being still in contention, there's really only 17 cars still in contention. William Fletcher in 18th is 3 laps down, and then after that it just begins to get a bit worse. So yeah, really survival has been the name of the game today. I was hoping that wouldn't be the case with the 2-3 repairs, but it seems a couple of these drivers needed a bit more than that. But these drivers up front have done a really good job, Kevin, at keeping their cars in one piece.
They have. It's a nice job. And I'm watching this little tandem of Lawrence Stanton and Mike Willett right now, and they are just kind of struggling a little bit to stay with that lead pack. I'm not sure if that's because of the damage that Danton has on the back of his car, but they're not a whole lot faster than the lead pack and kind of sitting about 2/3 of a second behind that lead pack. So if Willett wants to have another chance, and there's a yellow out. There is a yellow out, Samuel.
And we're going to have to keep an eye on those cars to make sure, as I think William Fletcher brought the caution out in the number 28 car. We're going to have to keep an eye on those cars to see if, to make sure that they don't run over each other as they slow down for the caution. Looks like William Fletcher, as many cars today have, just got loose in turn 3 and slid up in front of Brian Barnes, who has had connection issues today but is running in the top 20. May still be able to salvage some points in that blue number 4 car. So a 2-car collision brings out this latest caution, Joe.
Yeah, and I don't think Fletcher was completely blameless or completely to blame for that one, because George Soka was ahead of him and was starting to get a little squirrely himself. So I think that just caused him to check up, and that ruining of his momentum unfortunately caught him off guard. And poor Brian Barnes was behind it all, just with nowhere to go, and now he's got a crunched front end.
And the final pit stops of the day are about to take place. We'll update you on how they come out of pit road after this break. We're going to catch our breath a little bit because we may end up taking you to the checkers when we come back. I hope you grabbed some peanut butter and butter sandwiches under the latest caution, because we could be setting up for a great race to the end here, as there'll be about 37 laps left to go when they restart, which may be right on the edge of a fuel window. I'm not quite sure about that. Toby Butler came off pit road first with Brian Pager right behind him. Couple of cars getting the wave around, but I noticed, Kevin, that one driver we've been keeping an eye on, Richard Wedstead, who has some front end damage to that number 98 car, he didn't really spend any extra time in pits trying to fix that, so he must be pretty happy with his car right now.
Yeah, your guess is as good as mine, Samuel. I thought he would have stayed in as well, try and get as much repairs as he could, and then, you know, come back out on the lead lap. But maybe he just didn't want to give up track position. Maybe he thinks he can salvage a few points on the edge of the top 10 here.
Maybe. Well, the pace lights are off. They will be restarting with 37 laps left to go. Let's give you the lead lap order right now. Toby Butler will be restarting in first, and Brian Pager on the outside in the number 7 car in second. Troy Anderson and Mark Redeker are on the second row, with Joshua Gardiner and Ryan Otis on the third row. Mike Roulette and Craig Capon on the fourth row, and Brian Toma and Mickey Edmondson 9th and 10th. Richard Wedstead 11th, Rod Flagg in 12th, who just came down pit road, and Lauren Stanton is in 13th. In the number 13, funnily enough, as the field comes down the backstretch now, they will be getting the green flag this time by. We'll see whether they can make it to the end without a caution or not. I don't think so, Joe, but I don't know. What do you think?
It's going to be a tall order because guys' nerves are going to be just a little bit more on edge, especially knowing that they could make it to the end. And if we do get another caution, actually, that's just going to make it all the more easy. Not saying that anybody's going to make an intentional caution here, but it just might help them out. But lucky number 13, man. So, I mean, that has to be a good sign for these guys to be able to make it to the end with that many on the lead lap.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, in the Budweiser duel, or whatever they call the shootout race nowadays at Daytona last weekend, we saw about a 10-car pile-up coming off the final turn when one of the cars ran out of fuel. So, I don't know. I wish I could hear what these drivers were saying to each other right now to know if they can make it to the end or not. But I have a feeling we'll have another caution anyways. Pace car is in. Toby Butler has control of the field. Brian Pager. Let's see what kind of restart he can get. Maybe he'll be able to get his car back up front. Not with a restart like that, though. Toby Butler able to pull away and actually goes up high to cut off Brian Pager. Brian Pager thought about going down low, but Troy Anderson already had that space occupied, Kevin.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, Samuel, if you mentioned it, but I was looking. Lawrence Stanton has all that damage that he had on the back end of his car is repaired, so he's got a nice shiny car right now and looks pretty good, like he can move forward. But and definitely a good start in the front of the field. Toby Butler looking very strong because he's got Brian Pager pushing him behind. So we were a little surprised that Toby found himself in the lead, but there he is. He's earned his way there. He got a couple laps left, and he's looking pretty strong right at this moment.
They are beginning to get serious about this. Look at the bump drafting going on between Craig Capon and who's that in the number 12 car? Mickey Edmondson. We're doing a little bit of pushing coming out of turn 4 there. So the afterburners are really on right now, Joe. We've still got over 35 laps left to go.
I have to admit, when I saw Toby try to move up north to this high side of the track, I thought that was going to be the wrong move to try and cut off Brian Pager, but those two have hooked up and really done a good job. I kind of figured that Troy Anderson was going to be able to, with the low line being so good most of the race, just try to move his way up to the front. But he is currently sitting in third, and he's got Mark Redeker right behind him. So hopefully these guys can just keep it easy. We've got a lot of laps left to go, 35 laps left to go. And it's not quite time to make a move yet, but it's certainly time to make sure that you're in the right position to be able to make that move.
And let's not forget that there's no such thing as a green-white checkered in iRacing. So really these guys could just be racing to lap 196, and then if a caution comes out, it would end the race. So you can't just wait till the final 5 laps to make your move. You kind of got to make your move at the final 10 laps. And you can't really just decide to make a move at Daytona, you've got to set it up. So really at about lap 185, these drivers need to be starting to think of a plan if they want to win this race. And that's less than 20 laps away, Kevin.
20 laps, it could be either very, very short or it could be very, very long, depending on how the race is going out for you. I'm impressed to watch Toby Butler right now, and we're hearing there's a little bit of a Truly train right now on Mike Willett. He's got a lot of cars behind him. Only about 4 of them or 5 of them are on the lead lap, so he's in his place right now, but needs to get Wedstead behind him, pushing him a little bit better so that they can catch up with that lead pack, Samuel.
Yeah, not sure all our Oval fans know what a Trulli train is. Basically, Jarno Trulli was a Formula 1 driver notorious for holding other cars up, and Mike Roulette currently has one of those going on back there. However, they're certainly not out of this race right now, and if all heck breaks loose up front, they could be the ones taking home the W, Joe.
Well, what it's certainly allowed to happen is these top 6 cars you're starting to check out. In fact, Ryan Otis is at the tail of that. He's got to hustle and try to hold on to these guys if he wants to stay in contention here. These guys are starting to break away unless these this back little pack starts to work together, and that could really be crucial to allow them to start to make something happen. Although if it's 5 instead of 6, it's going to make it a bit of an awkward party because, you know, 3's a crowd.
Yeah, and if it's 5 instead of 6, that could mean that one driver is without a partner. Or, like I say, it could mean that 3's the crowd as one car goes in the wall up there and there's a collision. Jimbo Pfeiffer and Richard Wedstead, and I don't know if a caution's going to come out for this. Ryan Thomas spinning in the infield.
There's no caution. We are still under green flag racing, so guys still need to keep going.
Yep, and that certainly takes a few of them out of it, because we already know that Richard Wedstead has used up all of his free repairs, and now that's just even more damage for him. And as this race gets a green flag feel and not too many laps left in it, that means it might be harder for those guys not a part of a lead pack to become a part of it.
And Samuel, I think that Wedstead blew his engine, and that was what caused him to check up.
And Ryan Toma just blew his engine trying to come into the pits. So, and really that's the first time we've seen an engine expire simply from, you're saying that happened on the racetrack? He just got overheated?
Yep, he was in the draft of Mike Willett, and that engine just went and expired. A big clump of smoke came out, and that's what caught up, now I've forgotten who it was.
Ryan Toma, I believe. You know, I kind of wonder if we can chalk that up to that front end damage that he had. He had to stay into the draft to be able to hold on to those guys, so maybe he was working it just a little too hard.
Or maybe that front end damage was actually hurting, maybe he had a leak in the radiator hose or something. Back to you, Kevin.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. Was don't forget he had damage on the front end of his car, so I guess he wasn't able to cool it down as well as he needed to be able to cool it down.
Meanwhile, not much change up in the front of the lead pack. Toby Butler still leading the 8th place car by less than 8 tenths of a second, as we've got about 30 laps left to go. 11 cars still on the lead lap, rounded out by Craig Capon. And Matthew Saboski has now worked his way up into the final points paying position in 15th place, bro.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this top pack. It looks like Willett and Flag have worked their way back up. So we now have a top group of about 8 guys that are on the lead lap. However, there are a few mixed in, such as Jimbo Pfeiffer, who are a lap down.
Caution, maybe, yes, no. Lawson Danton, the only car on the lead lap that was not part of that lead pack, got loose in turns 3 and 4. All on. Oh, he was trying to get by. There was a slow car, Gary Nichols, riding on the bottom of the track, and Lawrence Danton says, hey, I'll try and pass this car on the apron. That doesn't really work here at Daytona, unfortunately, Lawrence. So that's going to move everyone behind him up one. That may put Ryan Toma in a points paying position.
Well, looking at that replay, it looks like I think Gary Nichols kind of threw off Lawrence Stanton. It looks like if, from my point of view, like Lawrence thought that Gary Nichols was going to run high, and all of a sudden he realized that nope, Gary Nichols wasn't going to run high, and didn't leave himself with any room. So unfortunate for Lawrence Stanton, he was having a pretty good run right there, and now that race is pretty much over for him.
And Richard Wedstead is out of the race, which has put Brian Marstella and George Socha back into the points. I'm watching this 14th and 15th place positions changing all the time, because really, if you walk out of here with a 16th, Joe, you may have just not as well came.
Yeah, but you have to at least try. I mean, if you're a race car driver, you're always going to try all the way till the end until there's absolutely 0% chance. And that's just the way these guys' brains are wired. We're hearing a bit of chatter over the radio as some of these guys are a little bit heated up over that incident with Nichols. I'm wondering if the stewards are going to ask them to close it up here.
Yeah, Gary Nichols has retired from the race. And
I just heard Matthew Sabowski say, "Holy crap, those guys are walking away from us." He is clearly worried about not being able to stay in touch with anybody.
Well, he and Brian Marstella are the only cars 2 laps down, so I don't think he's got too much to worry about position-wise right now. He's just going to have to hope a caution comes out, and really the best place for that to happen is this lead pack, which is still about 10 cars strong, 9 of those cars on the lead lap, but they're still all single file, Joe, and they're probably going to stay that way for about the next 10 laps if they have it their way.
Yeah, and it's as it gets smaller and smaller up at this lead pack, you're going to see more and more of these guys that know how to run up front. And these guys are really showing it right now, as you said, with them staying single file. They're not really challenging each other. Goes back to what was said earlier with Sabowski saying, the holy crap, these guys are running away. And there's a reason for that, because they're in single file line, just working together, rifling off those laps. They know now is not the time. They're in contention. They don't need to try and duke it out right here and right now. All they need to do is hold on, find themselves a buddy, and then find it out in those last 10 laps.
I was redoing my stat sheet to see if I could find any information about Toby Butler that I could put out there. The only thing I've got is that he was planning on running this race today. But as this race closes in on the 3-hour mark, we've certainly learned something about this Goodwrench Chevrolet number 08 driver, and that's that he certainly seems to be good at this restrictor plate oval racing, and as does everyone in this lead pack, honestly. I mean, all these drivers have shown speed today, they've shown the ability to drive their car through a wreck today, they've shown pit strategy today, as they go by the lap car. I believe that was Brian Barnes there on the outside line. We've talked about him fair share. 24 laps left to go. There's still about 10 cars in this race, in my opinion, Kevin.
I agree with you. There's about 10 cars. Well, actually, I'm going to narrow that down to about 8 cars. I think Rod Flagg is the last car there. Mickey Edmondson is the next car on track, but it looks like he had an engine blow. He is in pit lane right now with a smoking motor. Craig Capon is about another 30 seconds behind the lead back, so he doesn't really have much of a chance either.
Yeah, that was a collision, guys. Matthew Sabowski is going very slow heading down into turn 1. He got into the back of Mickey Edmondson and exited turn 4 and basically turned him into the outside wall.
And actually, that's related to that blown engine. Mickey blew it right in front of Matthew, and with him pushing him, that's I mean, that's pretty much, there's nothing he could have done to anticipate that, and that's why he was pushed into the wall.
That's certainly a possibility. So very unfortunate for Mickey Edmondson. That's another car in the lead lap that's going to go out, which is a benefit to the drivers running in about 16th and 17th. Randy Webster and Ryan Toma may be able to score some points here. As a matter of fact, though, Ryan Toma about to go another lap down as the lead pack come around turns 3 and 4 right here, and put him about a 7th lap down. So this race is really starting to have the attrition rate go up. Really, it hasn't all happened at once. It's just been something that's progressed as the time's gone on, just a factor of endurance racing, and about 22 laps left to go. And I think, Kevin, these drivers at the back of this pack are going to have to start doing some talking about trying to get up the run.
I agree with you. They are going to have to do some start talking. But you know, I just want to point out, you mentioned attrition. Of the 8 cars in this lead pack, 4 of them have not led a lap, and actually a couple of them have spent most of the race deeper in the pack and just made sure that they were around for the finish. We kind of talked about that a little bit earlier in the race, and that's kind of worked out a little well. Well, it's definitely worked out very well for Toby Butler, as he is the lead car right now. He's led the last 18 laps of this race, and he is looking like he is the man to beat at this moment.
And I don't know if fuel mileage is going to come into this, but if it does, let's make a note that Toby Butler is burning up more fuel than any of the other drivers, because as the cars behind him just run half throttle, staying in his draft, and Toby's out there with his foot flat on the gas pedal, revving at about 9,000 RPM. I don't have a view on his tachometer right now. And, oh, they're starting to get a little bit dicey in the middle of the pack there, but every driver's giving each other plenty of room so far, but I have a feeling that room's going to get a little bit narrowed down as the laps go on, and black car falling to the back of a pack here is our lap car.
No, that is Mike Willett, actually, who is elected to try and get out of line. I'm not sure if he needed some fresh air. Maybe he was overheating. He was pretty far back in the line, so there wasn't a lot of air getting to his radiator.
No, and George Socha is out of the race. I'm not sure what the story behind that is. Maybe it was... He was in the collision with Gary Nichols recently, so another one bites the dust, unfortunately.
And I want to hop back to Mike Willett. He had a bit of contact with Jimbo Pfeiffer as they were coming into one. He chopped him off. I'm not sure if his spotter gave him the clear or what, but that's caused them both to lose a bit of momentum, and they've lost touch with this pack.
Yeah, Jimbo Pfeiffer is not on the lead lap. As a matter of fact, he is the only car 1 lap down, so he's really hoping for another caution, because that will put him back on the lead lap and will give him about a 1 in 10 chance of winning this thing, Kevin.
Yeah, you guys said 1 in 10. A strong chance of this being a lottery finish. The way this lead pack is running so tight together, you just kind of know that any minute now guys are going to start running 2 wide, maybe trying to push it 3 wide as they get that last desperate grasp for the position they want.
2 wide around this track, very easy to do. We've seen it happen all day. 3 wide, it depends on the experience of the drivers. I'm going to say 3 wide won't end too well here, because we haven't seen anyone attempt it all day, as Troy Anderson looked like he was getting ready to make something happen, because there's only 18 laps left to go now. And I've kept saying only 54, only 42, only 31. I think we can begin saying only with all honesty now, because 17 laps to go, considering that the race could be over at lap 195 or lap 196, as there's a lap car getting very loose behind him there, who was dragging in the wall a little bit. That's Randy Webster, but he pulls out the way nicely. You know, these drivers certainly are gonna, may not necessarily think about making a move right now, but think about how they're gonna make a move and who they've got to work with. And right now, Toby Butler, he's just got to keep that car glued to the yellow line. Maybe talk to Brian Pedro a little bit. But I'll tell you what, Joe, those 2 cars are actually beginning to break away from the pack a little bit. 3/10 of the second lead right now.
Yeah, something that they're doing is working right for them, because they're just easing that gap up. Maybe Brian's giving just a little bit more of a push because he knows that they can get the speed, and it's probably incredibly crucial right now. So this is smart of them to try and get that gap up to make sure that they are out of touch. But I'm looking back, and Troy Anderson and Mark Reddicker are actually trying to hook up as well. So maybe those guys are seeing what they're doing and thinking, okay, if they go, we go.
And I just want to point out that our 8-car pack is no longer an 8-car pack. It is a 7-car pack. Mike Willett, he's about almost 2 seconds behind the car in front of him, Rod Flag. He has been dropped from that lead pack. He is no longer a contender unless something extraordinary happens now.
And all 7 of these cars in this lead pack are on the lead lap in contention, but may go down to 6 very soon. Rod Flag is losing Ryan Otis's draft, Joe.
Yeah, whatever happened, he's dropping. And,
double file.
So guys, I guess, are starting to decide it's time to go. But Troy Anderson is getting hung out to dry as he tries to take the high line, and nobody joins him and drops to the back of the line.
But this is great for Rod Flag because he'll now be able to get the draft of Troy Anderson, who has no momentum whatsoever, and back into the draft. So Troy Anderson really just saved Rod Flag there. Maybe not intentionally, but he saved him.
And you can see they've all tucked in line, stay low as they approach the lap car of Matthew Saboski. So clearly they don't want to run too wide while they've got Saboski around him. So they're letting themselves just stay in single file, and Saboski's going to just kind of let them go on by and get kind of straight and forward. But why did Rod Flag drop back a little bit, Sam? What happened there?
He may have just lost the draft. I mean, the pack right now is running so fast because they are all one behind each other, that even just something as simple as poking your nose out to get a bit of clean air, if you do it for just a millisecond too long or do it in the wrong place, you may fall from 200 miles an hour to 195. As soon as you begin to fall more than about half a second back of the car in front of you here, you begin to lose his draft, and then you just kind of have to rely on someone falling back, like Troy Anderson did, to get you back in the pack. But I'll tell you, Rod Flag may still not be quite in this, because Troy Anderson's pulling away from him a little bit. I don't know though, he might still be okay. 13 laps left to go at the line.
And we saw that Mickey Edmondson has just retired as well, so another car down. Attrition has been the name today.
And there's 3 lapped cars. As a matter of fact, one of them is currently on the lead lap, Craig Capon, about 5 seconds ahead of his pack. They might catch him within a couple of laps, and that could be the trigger for the gun to carry the bullet to make this thing happen that we're all waiting for in 10 laps. And when I say thing happen, I'm talking about 2 wide, 3 wide, basically pack racing. These guys trying to get the win, and Troy Anderson making it already, going up on the high side.
And he has worked that pretty well, and he was running very close, and now he's sitting, I believe, 4th overall, trying to get in front of Joshua Gardner. He's got a little bit of a gap between Gardner and Redeker, but not sure if it's going to make it happen. Nope, Gardner's got that draft on Redeker. He's pulling up, so we'll have to see if Anderson's going to get hung out to dry again.
Well, they're certainly not making momentum now, but they're trying something, and they have to, because they're coming to 11 laps left to go this time. Like I say, that could even just be 6 or 7 laps, and they're at the back, so they've got to make a move forward. Their persuasion technique is going to be talking the guys in front of them to try and do it as well. Now, they have every opportunity to go back down there and fall back into the draft. They haven't done it yet, now they do it. So the first attempt didn't work, maybe the second attempt will, Joe.
Yeah, and he keeps trying to get Otis to go with him, but I don't know what's wrong, because Otis isn't quite close enough to push him up there. Maybe he's got a little bit of damage, or maybe he just doesn't feel comfortable running right up on him. Now they're going at it once again. Let's see if Otis can stick with him and push him up to the front. That's all he needs, is a tandem to give him that speed.
We're on board with Ryan Otis at the back of this pack. Meanwhile, I'm keeping a bit of a close eye on the 3-car pack that these drivers will be coming up on in about 1 or 2 laps. Still double file for about 4th on back, but not enough right now. I think they're going to have to let the laps wind down a little bit. As soon as they get a 3rd car to join them up high, it may be possible, but I think they've got to get by this lap pack soon. First, before they can begin worrying about each other, and that will probably happen this lap. Craig Capon and co staying up high. These drivers need to try and get single file down low, Kevin.
They do, and Troy Anderson is putting himself in a bad spot. Maybe he's hoping he can get a draft off those lap cars, but I think, is going to get himself hung out to dry if he's not careful. He is looking to be in a very risky spot right now, Samuel.
Yeah, maybe he's friends with Craig Capon. I really don't know. Yeah, I really don't know what that's all about. He's going to lose a bit of time that way.
Yeah, he was complete. He had to check. Anderson had to check up big time to deal with those lap cars and duck down below. And you can see he's now a couple of car lengths behind Ryan Otis right now. So Anderson may have actually hurt himself really badly there.
Well, there's still time to make it up. They'll be coming to 8 laps left to go this time by. And has Anderson lost the draft? No, he's still up there. That's that pack of 3 that's losing the draft back there. So we've still got a 7-car race, and Troy Anderson going to take a bit of a shot at Ryan Otis as they go to the high side. They're going to try and make the sim work again. I still think they're going to need a 3rd car upstairs before they can get anywhere with it, though. And they don't want to get side by side like that too much, because if one of them gets turned, that could change everything.
Absolutely, and it's like you were saying earlier, now it's go time. Now's the time that these guys that are a little bit farther down have to make something happen. I think Troy knows that. He's been trying so hard to get something to happen. He just can't quite make it click, though. And meanwhile, these guys up front have been running just unfazed. Everyone is very smooth, very much in line. And it's going to be an interesting one coming up to the end to see who is teaming up with who and where allegiances lie.
Joe, I'm going to debate your smooth argument there. Joshua Gardner just about had a moment last time through NASCAR 1-2 as he hit the apron there and just about lost it, I think.
Only our road course drivers will call it NASCAR 1 and 2. Back to you, Drew.
Well, 1 out of 5 is not bad, I have to say, as far as smoothness goes. But still, Troy and Otis trying on that outside line, not quite making anything work at this point. And then the other question has to be in these guys' minds is the fuel mileage. We mentioned it a little bit earlier. Who is going to be able to make it to the end? Toby, he has been up front for a long time. When was the last time he pitted? Is he going to be able to make it to the end?
Well, they all pitted under the last caution, I think.
No, yeah. Samuel, remember Toby stayed out. He did not pit the last time by.
No, he pitted. He came in second, then came out in first. I believe so. I don't see how we could have made it this far without pitting under the last caution. So Toby Butler and Brian Page are leading the field right now as they go by the lap car. Brian Barnes. They're going to have to get single file at the back here. And this time it's going to be Ryan Otis getting hung out the dry on that high side. Nope, he gets back in line. And I think that's the last time they're going to see lap traffic during this race.
Yeah, the next car in front of them is Randy Webster. He's about half a lap in front of them. So, yeah, I think I agree with you. That should be the last time they see lap traffic.
Well, some of these guys are looking just a little bit racy up front here. Troy still trying that high side. I think he's fighting a losing battle here, trying to make that high side work. He needs to just get in line because eventually these guys are going to start jostling for position. We've got about 4 laps left. So at some point, guys have got to start looking. And when other people get hung out to dry, that's going to be his best opportunity to maybe slot up a few more spots.
The top 13 cars are pretty much guaranteed points because the 14th place car is 11 laps down and they have 4 laps left to go. They're beginning to get spread out now. Toby Butler should be the happiest man on the planet because if a caution flies, he's got the W. 204 miles an hour entering turn 3. They're coming to 4 laps left to go, Kevin. And really, the fact that a caution ends it, that tells you right now, these guys have got to start making their moves.
They've got to start making their moves, and Rod Flag has been dropped a little bit. Ryan Otis is trying to push him forward, but Troy Anderson is the big loser. He's been trying to work so hard, and now he's about a half second, 0.6 of a second behind Ryan Otis. I think Anderson has lost out on this battle. I think it is now a 6-car pack.
Toby Butler, the leader. Brian Pager, the guy who started last. Mark Rediker, the underdog. Joshua Gardner, the guy who's kind of been riding there. Rod Flag and Ryan Otis working together to try and get back up with that train of 4 cars. A little bit over 3 laps left to go, and Brian Pager still not making the move. Are these guys going to work as 2 tandems, or is it going to be all for one and one for all as they come to 3 laps left to go, Joe?
Yeah, and Joshua Gardner was trying to take a look on the outside. Either that, he was trying to get some air into his radiator, and it's not really working for him right now as he slots back into line. In fact, this has allowed Rod Flag to start to catch up to these guys, possibly even Ryan Otis as he starts to reel them in. For a while, it was looking like it might be a 4-car pack, but now it's going to go back to 6 once again as these guys get checked up. And now Gardner might have a teammate here in Rod Flag as he gets up behind him, and he's trying to push him. This could be it. We've got 3 and 3, 3 up high, and now, no, it looks like Otis is going to go low.
That was a great fake by Otis, if that's what he intended, because now he can draft up into 4th position on that low line, and now he can try and work with Mark Rediker and perhaps even tandem up to the top spot. What a great move by Ryan Otis from 6th to 4th, And although he goes on the high line, so no, undo all that. It's no, and he's back down low. It's back into a 6-car single file line, changing all the time, Kevin.
Well, you know, we keep talking about fuel, and we got to say, Toby Butler has led the last 38 laps, most of that under green flags. Will he run out of fuel with only a lap to go? This is getting very close.
Yeah, they're coming to the white flag this time by Toby Butler in the lead in the number 08. Brian Page, number 7. Mark Rediker, number 59. Here comes Ryan Otis, number 80 on the high side. White flag in the air, 2.5 miles, 1 lap left to go.
These guys really have to work together now. This is going to be their last chance. It looks like Otis has got a bit of a partner back there in Gardner, but they've got a long way to go to make up past these 4 cars.
Brian Page is going to have to go high because Toby's going to stick to that bottom line. A caution will not end the race. They're racing to the line. Look at this though. Brian's given Toby a little bit of a bump. Now Brian can attempt to make a move, and even if he falls flat on his face, he may still be able to pull off a second. Toby Butler leading as they come through NASCAR 3 and 4. Brian, is he going to make a move or is he going to settle for second? Toby Butler's leading at the moment. Brian Page are not going to go anywhere. Toby Butler takes her bread and butter and wins here at Daytona.
Fantastic stuff from Toby to be able to make that work after that long race, and he was so anonymous for most of it, and yet here he goes at the end of the race and absolutely dominates, leading the entirety of the last portion.
And I'm sure Toby may not even care where I came up with that bread and butter reference from. He's just happy that he's won it. He's still traveling 180 miles an hour down the backstretch. He's in a hurry to get to the front stretch so he can do some burnouts and celebrating his win in that good wrench Chevrolet here at Daytona. And the good wrench Chevrolet at Daytona, everyone knows the significance of that. Well, Toby Butler took the win, Brian Page in second, Mark Rediker in third, Rod Flagg in fourth, Joshua Gardner in fifth, Ryan Otis in sixth, Troy Anderson in seventh, and Mike Willett, the league organizer, in eighth place there, Kevin, rounding out the lead lap cars.
Yeah, you said it. In ninth was Craig Capon. He was the first of the lap cars. Then it was Jimbo Pfeiffer, Matthew Soboski, Brian Marsteller, William Fletcher, Randy Webster, and Brian Barnes was your 15th place runner.
Everyone from there on back does not score points, starting with Ryan Thomas, Mickey Edmondson, Lawrence Stanton, George Socha, and Richard Wedstead. What a shame how many of those drivers put on pretty impressive performances today, but just came up a bit short, Joe.
And just to show you how difficult it was just to make it to the end of 500 miles, it looks like we only had 15 cars running at the end there out of 36 guys that took the green flag at the start of this thing. So it's not just always about being fast, but sometimes just about simply surviving.
Yeah, and I think that's what Jimbo Pfeiffer was alluding to after the road course race, and consequently he was able to pull off a top 10 finish. We'll try and get a couple of interviews for you after this break, and hopefully get to talk to our winner, Toby Butler. Hello and welcome back to Daytona International Speedway, where Toby Butler has just won the Great American Race in the Northwest Majors Daytona 500. He's not available in the broadcast booth to speak to us right now, but Mark Rediger, who finished third place today, is, and we're going to bring him in and have a little bit of a talk to him about this race. Hey Mark, can you hear me?
Got you loud and clear.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on a third place finish there. How did your race go today?
Pretty good. Started out towards the rear, just took my time, was patient, avoided several of the early wrecks, and then got lucky on a couple pit stops to move me up into the top area where I just tagged onto the back of Brian and Toby and just held on for a ride to the finish.
We noticed you seem to be very good at timing your moves and wreck avoidance. You have a lot of oval racing experience.
I've been doing sim racing for about 10 years, and most of it is on oval tracks.
Oh, awesome. Well, it certainly helped play out for you today. Third place finish. Are we going to see you in the rest of the oval races this season?
Definitely give the ovals a shot. I'll be trying to give some of the road races a shot. I'm a disabled military vet, so the road courses are kind of rough on me sometimes, but the oval ones I'll be here for sure.
Well, thank you very much for serving, and we look forward to seeing you throughout the rest of this season.
Thank you, and thank you guys for hosting this race tonight.
Oh, it's been our pleasure. Anyhow, we've also got Brian Pager here, who finished second place today. Joe, would you like to ask Brian a couple questions?
Absolutely. I think the first question on our mind, Brian, is what happened at the start there when you were given the end-of-line penalty?
Yeah, just as soon as we were going to just got done qualifying, I had internet problems and stuff, and so I had to back out, come back in. Frame rates were dancing around, so I asked for an EOL. That way, something happened, I didn't wreck the whole field.
That was admirable of you. It paid off at least somewhat, being able to work yourself up into second. It seemed to take you a while to get up there, especially early on. You looked like you were struggling a bit. Was that the case?
No, not at all. I just sat in the back and basically just rode around, just see what was going to go on and stay clean. And I knew I could probably be up front, if I just took my time.
Well, you played that strategy perfectly. Congratulations on a second place finish. Hopefully you can move one more step up the podium in the next race.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
All right, thanks for talking to us. Back to you, Sam.
Well, we know you guys have been, and we're very grateful for you for sticking around for this broadcast. Hopefully passed by quickly for you. It's certainly 3 hours in length. A lot of work for us, but it was certainly fun, and we enjoy bringing it to you. And big congratulations to Toby Butler today. He drove an excellent race, leading a bunch of laps. We would like to thank Mike Willett for organising this league and putting on this race that you saw today. We would also like to thank the makers of the various software and hardware that help make this stream possible: iRacing.com, XSplit, Twitch.tv, Audio Technica, and Ava Media. Thanks to the team today. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at www.globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and race highlights. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at facebook.com/globalsimracingchannel. A special thank you to Eric Ekholm, who provides us with much of our music. You can find it not only here on GSRC, but in TV commercials, movie trailers, iTunes and Spotify. If you like our music, tell Eric where you heard it at ericekholm.com. Thanks to Casey Lalonde, who also provides us with the music for our broadcasts. You can find more of his music at caseylalonde.bandcamp.com. The next race for the Northwest Majors will be at Sebring at 9 PM Eastern Time, 6 PM Pacific Time, Sunday, March 16th. That's in about 3 weeks from now at the same time. Our next broadcast on GSRC will be the Enduro Pro Series next Saturday, March 1st at 10:45 AM Eastern Time, 7:45 AM Pacific Time. Once again, that's next Saturday on March 1st. Until then, race clean, race hard, and we hope you enjoy your peanut butter and butter sandwiches.